Chapter 46-25. Soon, Xiao Yuhua and the others appeared by Kong Xinmu's side. When they heard that Kong Xinmu was going to take Xiaobai away, they were very surprised at first. Then, when they heard that the Dragon Martial Continent was out of danger, their faces lit up with joy. Only Ran Ran was a little disappointed. After all, she really wanted to go with Kong Xinmu. However, she also knew that Xiaobai could not appear in the current situation. So, letting Xiaobai follow Kong Xinmu to the Dragon God's great world was the best choice. Then, the remaining two people began to choose high-level Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques. Kong Xinmu chose the 9-stage Extreme Tao Hui Dragon Explosion. He had only cultivated the first stage, so he could only be considered a beginner. So, if he wanted to cultivate high-level Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts techniques, he really did not need half a year's time. They went to choose. As for Kong Xinmu, he discussed with Xiaobai what to do next. After all, they were going to a whole new world. Kong Xinmu did not have any relatives or friends. He just wanted to go back to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court. As for Xiaobai, he did not know how she was doing. In the past, Kong Xinmu did not ask much about Xiao Yuhua and Xiaobai's background. But now, after some discussion, he knew that Xiaobai was the illegitimate daughter of a Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Emperor nation. Unfortunately, that Dragon Emperor expert had died 11 years ago. Xiaobai had been living with her poor mother. Later, when her divine dragon inheritance bloodline awakened, it directly became a top-notch heavenly dragon bloodline. This made her sore. As for her mother, she was now well taken care of and protected by the successor of the Dragon Emperor nation, the Dragon Emperor. After all, Xiaobai was now a top genius of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, just like Kong Xinmu's status in the Yen Dragon Emperor's court. So, the Dragon Emperor nation where Xiaobai lived would certainly not mistreat her mother. Of course, she still had to go back. No matter what, this trip to the Dragon God's great world was an opportunity, but it was also risky. Then let's go back together. Oh, by the way, you rest in the Dragon Martial Fortress. I have to go back to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court first. Kong Xinmu said to Xiaobai. Xiaobai nodded her head in agreement. When they first met, the girl's attitude towards Kong Xinmu was rather cold. But now, they were familiar enough with each other. So, Xiaobai treated Kong Xinmu like she treated Xiao Yuhua. She regarded him as her best friend. Kong Xinmu's return to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court to bid farewell would not take a few days. During this time, she could continue to cultivate. As for Kong Xinmu, he used his remaining guardian points to exchange for heavenly treasures that contained dragon mark energy. He planned to give these heavenly treasures to the Jiang clan of the Dragon Emperor's court, as well as the Shi clan residents. Of course, he had to act secretly. It was absolutely impossible for this information to be leaked. Otherwise, it would definitely bring disaster to the Jiang clan and the Shi mansion. Heavenly treasures that contained dragon mark energy were extremely precious to all the dragon warriors of the Yen Dragon Emperor's court. Countless dragon warriors pursued these treasures their entire lives, because once they had such treasures, they could break through the bottleneck and rush to a higher grade of divine dragon's blood essence. From sky dragon to divine dragon, from divine dragon to dragon king, even from dragon king to dragon emperor. Everything was possible. Therefore, Kong Xinmu did not intend to distribute these heavenly treasures with great fanfare. He only planned to give them to Jiang Liuxue and the Shi clan sisters, and let them distribute them themselves. Of course, Kong Xinmu would also use his devouring power to transfer some of the dragon mark energy to them. Currently, the dragon mark energy in Kong Xinmu's body was simply too abundant compared to theirs. Even if the grade of their divine dragon's blood essence was directly raised to that of the Dragon Kings, Kong Xinmu would not lose much dragon mark energy. The dragon mark energy was nothing to Kong Xinmu, and he could even recover it in a few days. Soon, everyone's matters at Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy were basically settled. After choosing the high-grade divine dragon martial arts techniques, they all bid farewell to Kong Xinmu. Of course, after Kong Xinmu returned to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court, he was still prepared to return to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. He wanted to accompany Xiaobai back to her Dragon Emperor's country to have a look. As for the exact time of departure, it might take another half a month. During this time, Kong Xinmu would not neglect his cultivation. He knew that his strength was not considered strong, especially when he went to the Dragon God's great world. Because the grade of the divine dragon's blood essence was not high, and his cultivation realm was not high, it was very likely that he would be bullied in the holy lands of 5 extremes mysterious ice. He had to be prepared for such a situation, lest he was caught off guard and not be able to react in time. This was an opportunity and also a test. If his performance was too poor, perhaps even the holy lands of 5 extremes mysterious ice would not tolerate him. After all, as a powerful existence who could kill Susan Luo, he was specially summoned to the holy lands of 5 extremes mysterious ice. If his performance was not satisfactory, it was very likely that he would encounter some unnecessary trouble. Of course, if Kong Shin-mu was given the cold shoulder, he could go directly to the chaotic battlefield. However, he was afraid that in this way, the Dragon Martial Continent, which had just escaped danger, would once again fall into war and chaos. If the Supreme Divine Dragons went back on their word because his talent was not as strong as imagined and no longer planned to protect the Dragon Martial Continent, it would be a tragedy for Kong Shin-mu. The dragon gods are fighting with many races on the chaotic battlefield. Right now, there should be several large races that have joined forces to invade the dragon god's great world. Thus, many supreme divine dragons have been restrained. It can be seen that the current dragon god's great world is not peaceful. Of course, no matter how chaotic it is still much better than the chaotic battlefield. Kong Shin-mu did not know what would happen if he went to the dragon god's great world. In any case, he just had to be prepared for all possibilities. The remaining guardian points were all exchanged by Kong Shin-mu for cultivation resources. He did not keep any because these guardian points were useless to him. As for the reward for killing Susan Luo, the 2 high-level divine spirit dragon martial techniques took up more than half of it. The rest were kept for Xiao Yuhua and the other 2. Kong Shin-mu did not use too many. Susan Luo still had 2 heaven-level phantom weapons on him, including the Heaven Illusionary Disc. Kong Shin-mu also kept them and did not hand them over. He thought that he might be able to use these things in the future. After all, they were top-level phantom weapons. Unfortunately, Kong Shin-mu did not have a complete understanding of the black hole of nothingness and the judgment of nothingness. If he devoured more of the power of the Void Human Tribe's Holy Void martial techniques, he might be able to understand a little. Even if he only cultivated them to the lowest human level, it would be fine. Everything had been arranged. Next, Kong Shin-mu planned to return to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court. Chapter 46-26. After returning to the Yen Dragon Emperor's court, Kong Shin-mu first returned to the Zhang clan. He saw his mother, the many dragon warriors of the Zhang clan, and some of the younger dragon warriors. These dragon warriors were very excited about Kong Shin-mu's return, because Kong Shin-mu was the pride of the Zhang clan. Now, because of Kong Shin-mu and Zhang Liuxue, the Zhang clan's position in the Yen Dragon Emperor's court had become very high. It could even be compared to the Shi Mansion in Dragon Prison City. In the Zhang clan, due to the sufficient cultivation resources, many talented youths had emerged. These youths held positions in Dragon Prison City, cultivating and gaining experience. As for the other tribes around Dragon Prison City, they had been left far behind by the Zhang clan. Of course, Ji clan's Ji Yeshuan seemed to have first-rate talent. She had also joined the Dragon Martial Academy, which was said to be Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. However, Kong Shin-mu had never seen her before. After all, Kong Shin-mu had always been operating in Dragon Martial Fortress. He rarely returned to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Even if he did return occasionally, it was unlikely that he would meet an old friend. Ji Yeshuan actually joined Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. She has good taste. It's Zhang Liuxue who actually joined Donghuang Yanggu College. After returning to the Zhang clan, Kong Shin-mu learned of this matter. After all, this was a major event for the Zhang clan. This was the second student from the Zhang clan to be chosen to join the Dragon Martial Academy. This proved that the Zhang clan was stronger and had more potential than the surrounding tribes. Of course, the level that Kong Shin-mu had reached was unknown to the dragon warriors of the Zhang clan and the surrounding tribes. Very few of them knew what had happened to the Dragon Martial Academy and Dragon Martial Fortress. They did not even know of the existence of Dragon Martial Fortress. After all, this matter was too far away from them. Kong Shin-mu stayed in the Zhang tribal clan for 3 days. It was not because he was reluctant to part with the Zhang tribal clan, but because he was accompanying his mother. After leaving this time, the chances of him returning would be even lesser. Kong Shinmu had told her about his father. His mother had only warned him that no matter what happened, he had to prioritize his own life. As long as he was still alive, anything was possible. Kong Shinmu nodded in agreement. He also remembered his mother's words. If there was no need to risk his life, then there was no need to. After all, as long as he was alive, he would have the chance to rescue his father from the dragon sealing abyss. 3 days later, Kong Shinmu left the Jiang clan and went to the Shi clan residence in Dragon Prison City. He met the sacred dragon, Shi Tao. Or rather the current Dragon King, Shi Tao. Shi Tao wasn't too far away from Dragon King's level to begin with. Now, he had received the care of Dragon Emperor Yan. Many cultivation resources were thrown at him, allowing him to directly break through to the level of Dragon King's divine dragon's blood essence. Shi Tao had also taken over the position of Dragon Prison City's city lord. Although he was busy, he kept talking about his 2 daughters. Shi Weiying and Shi Yutong had actually joined Donghuang Yonggu College. This was something Kong Shinmu had never expected. Perhaps, all of this was related to Zhuo Xiaofeng? After Zhuo Xiaofeng's investigation, he wanted to use the 3 girls to restrict Kong Shinmu? Kong Shinmu did not know the exact situation. In short, he had gone to Yen Dragon City once, but unfortunately, he did not see Dragon Emperor Yen. As Yen Dragon Emperor had not reached the 5th level of Dragon Emperor, the Dragon Emperor mentor, he had spent most of his time fighting on the battlefield of the 9 major races, obtaining cultivation resources to improve himself. Dragon Emperor Yen also had the desire to become stronger. This was the same for everyone. Experiencing danger, killing the servants or clansmen of the 9 major races, and finally obtaining enough cultivation resources to break through, for Dragon Emperor Yen, it was a little difficult for him to become an existence at the level of Dragon Emperor Mentor. However, if he could accumulate enough battle merits and obtain enough guardian points, it was still possible for him to break through to the 4th level of Dragon Emperor. After all, Dragon Emperor Yan's bottleneck had come when he was at the 2nd level of Dragon Emperor. Subsequent breakthroughs would require several times more cultivation resources and Dragon Mark energy. Of course, Dragon Emperor Yen was already at the 3rd level of Dragon Emperor Legacy Blood Essence. It would not be long before he could break through to the 4th level of Dragon Emperor. From the 4th level to the 5th level was a watershed. It was not easy. Therefore, Dragon Emperor Yen might give up working hard at that time. After all, when the time came, Dragon Emperor Mentor could also step onto the battlefield to fight. His current strength was not enough. Going on the battlefield was purely seeking death. Since Dragon Emperor Yen was not in Yen Dragon City, there was no need for Kong Shinmu to stay. In the end, he went near the sealed dragon abyss and looked at it from afar for an hour. He secretly made up his mind that one day, he would rescue his father. Next, Kong Shinmu first went to Dragon Martial Fortress. He did not see Dragon Emperor Yen. It was possible that he was fighting with the 9 major races on the battlefield outside. Therefore, Kong Shinmu did not wait for Dragon Emperor Yen. He went directly to Donghuang Yonggu College. If it was in the past, he really did not dare to come to this place. For him, although this place was an old place, his great enemy, Zhuo Xiaofeng, was here. If he came to Donghuang Yonggu College in the past, it would be equivalent to walking into a trap. Wouldn't it give Zhuo Xiaofeng a chance to deal with him? But now, he was not afraid of Zhuo Xiaofeng at all, nor did he worry that he would attack him. Because he had been selected to cultivate in the holy lands of 5 extremes dark ice in the Dragon God clan world. If something happened to him in Donghuang Yonggu College, Zhuo Xiaofeng would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. Therefore, even if Zhuo Xiaofeng knew about Kong Shinmu's arrival, there was nothing he could do. No one knew where Zhuo Xiaofeng was now, but if he knew, he could only watch as Kong Shinmu came to Donghuang Yonggu College to find them. He would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood. Kong Shinmu came to Donghuang Yonggu College to find Jiang Liuxue and the Shi sisters, of course. Kong Shinmu was still worried about the 3 of them staying in Donghuang Yonggu College, so he wanted to bring them out and send them to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Now, the recruitment requirements of the major Dragon Martial Academies had been greatly relaxed. With Kong Shinmu's recommendation, it would not be a big problem for the 3 of them to enter Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Moreover, they could also cultivate with Xiao Yuhua and the other 2 sisters in the future, so that Xiao Yuhua and the others could take care of them. When he came to Donghuang Yonggu College, he planned to ask for directions. After all, he did not know where Jiang Liuxue and the others were. Chapter 46-27. Jiang Liuxue and the Shi sisters were now well known in Donghuang Yonggu College. That was because Lord Long, the #1 student in the Divine Center district of Donghuang Yonggu College, had returned to Donghuang Yonggu College 2 days ago. He invited the 3 girls to dinner and showed that he was interested in them. No one knew what Lord Long wanted to do. But in any case, as the #1 student in the Divine Center district, Lord Long enjoyed great prestige in Donghuang Yonggu College. Although he was not as famous as Yu Tiangshang, the number of students in Donghuang Yonggu College had increased. Therefore, it seemed to be even more imposing. Lord Long invited the 3 girls to dinner and took them to play around in the last 2 days, which made many female dragon warriors envious of them. But who knew that the 3 of them had no way of rejecting him? If they could refuse, they would not care about Lord Long at all. But Lord Long's strength and status were too strong. He was the #1 student in the Divine Center district, which was not for nothing. The 3 of them together were no match for Lord Long. Not to mention Lord Long, even Lord Long's lackeys were at the same level as Lin Shuang, who could set foot in Longgu Fortress and fight on the battlefield of the 9 races. That kind of existence could easily crush the 3 women with a single move. After all, the 3 girls had just arrived at Donghuang Yonggu College, and they only had the inherited blood essence of the Holy Dragon level. And it was because Dragon Emperor Yen had taken care of them and provided them with some cultivation resources of the Dragon Mark energy. Otherwise, they would be considered weak among the Holy Dragons. But there was absolutely no problem with their talent. As long as they had enough cultivation resources, their future achievements would not be lower than Dragon Emperor Yan's. Kong Xinmu asked for directions and soon got the answer. Lord Long invited the 3 girls to the martial arts arena to show off his skills in front of them. Lord Long and his people were learning from each other, and he even asked Mentor Dragon Emperor to be the referee, so that the 3 girls would know how strong he was. Although Lord Long was sure that the 3 girls did not know the latest news about Kong Xinmu, he knew that it was not a bad thing to build a good relationship with them. Whether it was to get close to Kong Xinmu or to deal with Kong Xinmu in the future, there was nothing wrong with spending a little effort to build a good relationship with the 3 women. There would only be advantages and no disadvantages. Kong Xinmu went directly to the central square of Donghuang Yonggu College, which was also the place where the college tournament would be held. As soon as he arrived, he heard cheers coming from all directions. It seemed like there was a very exciting fight going on, but it had nothing to do with Kong Xinmu. He had only come to take Jiang Liuxue and her 2 companions away. With the arrival of Kong Xinmu, more and more students gathered in the central square. Some people spread the news of Kong Xinmu's arrival, which naturally attracted countless students of Donghuang Yonggu College to watch the fun. Who was Kong Xinmu? He was a traitor of Donghuang Yonggu College. Now he dared to come back to Donghuang Yonggu College. Wasn't he asking for trouble? Hearing that he was going to find Jiang Liuxue and the other 2 beauties, many students expressed their displeasure and insisted on coming to see them. After all, Jiang Liuxue and her 2 companions were now a little famous in Donghuang Yonggu College. It was impossible for the 3 beauties to not attract attention when they were together. Therefore, in the central square of Donghuang Yonggu College, more and more dragon warriors gathered. With the arrival of Kong Xinmu, the central square, which was supposed to only have 100 people, was now filled with 300 to 400 people. Most of these students were like Jiang Liuxue and her 2 companions, who had recently joined Donghuang Yonggu College due to the expansion of the Dragon Martial Academy. There were also some who came from the hidden dragon warrior clans. Before those young juniors reached the strength of the Yuhing district, they could only obediently stay in the Eastern Emperor Dragon Martial Academy. Right now, the Academy's cultivation resources were much more than their own clans. Moreover, the resources obtained from Dragon Martial Academy were plentiful for no reason. Their respective hidden dragon warrior families still had a lot of resources. Those hidden dragon warrior families had a vague attitude toward Kong Xinmu. Many students didn't even know who Kong Xinmu was, but they had heard from their family elders that Kong Xinmu was in the limelight at Longgu Fortress. Therefore, they were curious and wanted to come and see. But they thought to themselves, no matter how strong Kong Xinmu was, he couldn't be stronger than Lord Long, could he? After all, Lord Long was the #1 student in the Divine Center district of Donghuang Yonggu College. He had 3 students from the Divine Center district under his command, all of whom were in his team. Among the students of Donghuang Yonggu College, it could be said that Lord Long was the #1 in both strength and influence. But Kong Xinmu had come alone to look for Jiang Liuxue and her two companions. Didn't that mean that he was running into Lord Long's gun? Who didn't know that Lord Long was with Jiang Liuxue and her two companions, trying to please them? In the central square of Donghuang Yonggu College, hundreds of people were shouting. In the square, Lord Long had just defeated one of his team members, showing his unparalleled aggressiveness. There were even a few acquaintances of Kong Xinmu: Chu Yi, Qin Xiaoye, Luo Han and Su Qin. They were all here, including Zhu Wudi. They came to the central square to see Lord Long's current strength. After seeing him, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi both narrowed their eyes. This Lord Long used to be the #1 student in the Divine Center District, but after he got this title, he didn't seem to cultivate hard. Now the combat strength he showed was really ordinary, completely incomparable to the original Yu Tianchong. Even compared with Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, he was still a level lower. After the last school competition, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi could be said to have advanced by leaps and bounds. Now their combat strength was very strong, but they didn't know the situation of the other students in the Divine Center District, so they came back to have a look. But Lord Long's strength disappointed both of them. Among them, Zhu Wudi felt that Lord Long's strength was no match for him at all, judging from the strength he had shown. Of course, what Lord Long showed now was not his full strength. But if Zhu Wudi fought against Lord Long's opponents, he didn't even need to use 30% of his strength. Now they were all at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor's Divine Dragon Inheritance, reaching the peak level before Dragon Emperor Mentor. As for their cultivation, they were at the 7th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm. This level was already extremely terrifying. After all, their daily efforts were not in vain. Kong Xinmu's team was not the only one who had killed members of the 9 clans. Whether it was Zhu Wudi or Qin Xiaoye, they had killed many members of the 9 clans. In such an environment, Kong Xinmu's figure appeared over the central square, reflected in the eyes of all the people present. Zhu Wudi, Qin Xiaoye, and the others were stunned. Chapter 46-28. Those who knew Kong Xinmu were all looking in the direction where Kong Xinmu was flying from with a surprised look on their faces. Those who had never seen Kong Xinmu before kept asking the people around them who he was because they saw many people looking at Kong Xinmu with a surprised look. When they found out that it was Kong Xinmu, they were all surprised. Before long, the entire central square of Donghuang Yonggu College became even livelier. Countless people were surprised and looked at Kong Xinmu flying over with a strange look on their faces. They had all heard that Kong Xinmu was a traitor of Donghuang Yonggu College. This saying was especially popular in Donghuang Yonggu College, and many people would talk about it. It had almost become an illusion of Donghuang Yonggu College. Very few people knew the truth. Even those who knew wouldn't spread it around. Not to mention that those who knew wouldn't stand up and speak. Even if they stood up and spoke for Jiang Xinwu, no one would believe them. This was the influence created by Zhuo Xiaofeng, the dean of Donghuang Yonggu College. Under such circumstances, even if Qin Xiaoye and the others wanted to speak up for Kong Xinmu, they would not be able to affect the general trend. Therefore, most people in Donghuang Yonggu College still believed that Kong Xinmu had betrayed Donghuang Yonggu College. One could imagine how shocking it was for Kong Xinmu to appear in Donghuang Yonggu College under such circumstances. This traitor still had the nerve to come back. Immediately, the students of Dragon Martial College in the square were filled with righteous indignation and glared at Kong Xinmu. However, there were 2 Dragon Emperor mentors who were originally here to be judges for Lord Dragon Emperor's competition. They were on good terms with Lord Dragon Emperor. After all, according to the current situation, Lord Dragon Emperor would soon become a figure on the same level as Dragon Emperor's mentors. When the 2 mentors saw Kong Xinmu, their expressions changed slightly. It was not because they thought Kong Xinmu was a traitor. They knew very well that Kong Xinmu had left Donghuang Yonggu College. However, as mentors of Dragon Emperor, they would not meddle in this kind of business. Especially when this matter involved Dean Zhuo Xiaofeng. When the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors saw Kong Xinmu, their expressions changed because they did not expect that Kong Xinmu would come to Donghuang Yonggu College. No matter what he was here for, it meant that he had an absolute backer. Otherwise, how would he dare to come here? And what Kong Xinmu was doing was definitely not good for Donghuang Yonggu College. Therefore, they subconsciously wanted to step forward and stop Kong Xinmu from entering. But at this time, Lord Dragon Emperor saw Kong Shinmu and his expression changed slightly. Then he laughed and said, Kong Shinmu, I've been looking for you everywhere. You actually came to me yourself. It seemed that Lord Dragon Emperor wanted to compete with Kong Shinmu. The two Dragon Emperor mentors were instantly relieved. With Lord Dragon Emperor present, Kong Shinmu could not be Lord Dragon Emperor's opponent, could he? After all, Lord Dragon Emperor was the top student in the Tianshu district of Donghuang Yongwu College. And Kong Shinmu's ranking in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts College was unknown. Kong Shinmu did not participate in the last school competition. They could only know from some rumors that Kong Shinmu's strength was very good, at least stronger than Qin Xiaoye's. But in last year's school competition, Qin Xiaoye was not Lord Dragon Emperor's opponent, and the gap was very big. Now Lord Dragon Emperor's strength must be stronger, and it was impossible for him to lose to Kong Shinmu. As mentors of Dragon Emperor, it was not convenient for them to take action. But with Lord Dragon Emperor present, no matter what Kong Shinmu wanted to do, Lord Dragon Emperor would not let Kong Shinmu succeed. Who are you? When Lord Dragon Emperor called out Kong Shinmu's name, Kong Shinmu looked at the black dragon flying in the sky and asked with a somewhat indifferent expression. As he asked, he glanced at the spectator stands below. Jiang Liuxue and the other two girls were here to watch the fight. Where were they? Before Kong Shinmu could find the three girls, Lord Dragon Emperor had already been choked by Kong Shinmu's question. Who was he? He was Lord Dragon Emperor. He was the top student in the Tianshu district of Donghuang Yongwu College. In the whole of Donghuang Yongwu College, he was the strongest except for Mentor Dragon Emperor. But this Kong Shinmu did not know him, and he even asked who he was to his face? Was there a mistake? This was the home ground of Donghuang Yongwu College. How could Kong Shinmu be so arrogant in Donghuang Yongwu College? I'm Lord Dragon Emperor. Lord Dragon Emperor stared at Kong Shinmu fiercely and said with a cold snort, Kong Shinmu, I've heard that you're quite powerful. Since you're here today, I'd like to learn from you. At this time, Kong Shinmu glanced at him. Lord Dragon Emperor's momentum was strong, but in terms of real strength, it was just so-so for Kong Shinmu. If they were to fight, Kong Shinmu could kill Lord Dragon Emperor in 3 moves. But this time, he did not come to deal with the students of Donghuang Yongwu College. He just came to find someone. At this time, he heard someone calling his name. The familiar voice made him slightly happy, and he looked in the direction of the voice. Then he saw 3 familiar figures. They were Jiang Liuxue, Shi Yueying, and Shi Yutong, who were on the audience stand. The 3 girls had become more slender and elegant. They were originally 1 in a million beauties, but now they had become more mature and attractive. Their swaying and seductive bodies attracted the attention of many male students around them. They shouted at Kong Shinmu, obviously surprised. They did not expect that Kong Shinmu would appear in Donghuang Yongwu College. Since they came to Donghuang Yongwu College, they had heard a lot about Kong Shinmu. It was not until they came here that they learned that Kong Shinmu had been driven away by Zhuo Xiaofeng, the dean of Donghuang Yongwu College. They cared about Kong Shinmu, so of course, they would not listen to the rumors outside. Instead, they went around asking people. They found Yu Tianchong and the Fire Phoenix Princess, who had now joined Donghuang Yongwu College. They all told them the truth. Kong Shinmu did not betray them, but was forced to leave. This truth shocked the 3 girls a little. They knew that someone had wreaked havoc in Flame Dragon City. Kong Shinmu had saved Dragon Emperor Yan and became the hero of Dragon Emperor Yan's dynasty. It was said that Kong Shinmu had been the cause of that incident. However, they did not know the specific reason. After all, they were not strong enough, and their status was not high enough. It was naturally extremely difficult for them to find out the truth. Therefore, they found a way to join Donghuang Yongwu College. They did not join Donghuang Yongwu College through Dragon Emperor Yan. Instead, when they wanted to join, a teacher from Donghuang Yongwu College came looking for them and asked them to join. As for who that teacher was, Bian Feng. Chapter 46-29. After following Bian Feng to Donghuang Yongwu College, the 3 girls did not receive any unfair treatment. On the contrary, Bian Feng treated them very well and gave them priority in some cultivation resources, which made them feel flattered. After learning about Kong Shinmu's situation in Donghuang Yongwu College, the 3 girls became vigilant. They felt that Bien Feng did not seem to treat them so simply, and that he must have some other motives. Could it be that he wanted to use them to deal with Kong Shinmu? After all, Kong Shinmu cared about the three of them. If they were to rise in Donghuang Yonggu College and bear the mark of Donghuang Yonggu College, what would Kong Shinmu do if they were to oppose Kong Shinmu in the future? He would probably be in a difficult position. Therefore, this was Bien Feng and Zhuo Xiaofeng's purpose. They wanted to recruit the three girls into Donghuang Yonggu College. At the same time, they wanted to give them the best treatment so that they could rise as quickly as possible. In this way, if they encountered each other in the college exchange in the future, it would definitely affect Kong Shinmu's state of mind. Zhuo Xiaofeng's idea was not bad. If he really encountered the three of them during the college exchange, Kong Shinmu might not use his full strength. Of course, there was a huge gap between the three of them and Kong Shinmu now. But what if their opponents were other students from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts College? Would Kong Shinmu warn the students from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts College in advance for their safety? In this way, there might be a barrier between Kong Shinmu and the students from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts College and the higher-ups. All in all, Zhuo Xiaofeng was equivalent to holding the three of them hostage. This was an opportunity for the three of them, but in the future, they would be used by Zhuo Xiaofeng as tools and weapons to deal with Kong Shinmu. Now that Kong Shinmu appeared in front of them, they were a little surprised. After all, they had not seen Kong Shinmu for a long time. They felt uncomfortable staying in Donghuang Yonggu College. Why did Kong Shinmu come to Donghuang Yonggu College? At the moment, no one knew what Kong Shinmu wanted to do. But soon, Kong Shinmu bluntly stated his intention. He glanced at Lord Long and said, "I'm not interested in you. I'm just here to take my three friends away." Take him away? Where? Lord Long's face darkened. Of course, he knew who Kong Shinmu was talking about. Jiang Liuxue, Shi Yueying, and Shi Yutong were all good friends of Kong Shinmu before he joined Donghuang Yonggu College. Jiang Liuxue was even from Kong Shinmu's clan. Therefore, Lord Long suddenly became nervous. He was not worried that the three girls would be taken away. He was worried that Kong Shinmu did not seem to care about him at all. Would he lose to Kong Shinmu? Looking at the current situation, there would definitely be a battle between him and Kong Shinmu. And this battle would not be simple. It represented the battle of honor between Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial College and Donghuang Yonggu College. After all, Lord Long was the #1 student in Donghuang Yonggu College. Of course, Lord Long did not think that he would lose to Kong Shinmu. But there were too many rumors about Kong Shinmu. As for Kong Shinmu, even if he used all his energy to deal with him, he would not think it was too little. Of course I'm taking them from Donghuang Yonggu College to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial College. Kong Shinmu glanced at Lord Long, paused, and continued. The dragon skills of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial College are mostly for women to practice. It's more suitable for them. So, I'm taking them away. Hearing Kong Shinmu's words, there was a burst of laughter from the crowd. Lord Long laughed out loud. Kong Shinmu, you really make people look down on you. The dragon skills of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial College are mostly for women to practice. It's more suitable for them? So, you're not betraying Donghuang Yonggu College for this reason, are you? Kong Shinmu, you're not a man but a woman? His words were full of sarcasm. Unfortunately, Kong Shinmu was not interested in him at all. He did not care how Donghuang Yonggu College slandered him. He just glanced at Lord Long and said, "People who don't know the truth are really sad. They will only become other people's tools." Yes, Lord Long was now almost Zhuo Xiaofeng's pawn. Although Zhuo Xiaofeng did not know it himself, Lord Long was now standing at the forefront, a tool to deal with Kong Shinmu. As for Kong Shinmu's words, Lord Long certainly did not understand what he meant. He sneered. Kong Shinmu, it's impossible for you to take away the students of Donghuang Yonggu College today. The three of them are my junior sisters. I will teach them personally. I will never let their talents down. Before he finished speaking, Jiang Liuxue suddenly stood up and calmly said to Kong Shinmu, "Okay, Kong Shinmu, I'll go with you." After knowing the truth about Kong Shinmu's betrayal, she felt uncomfortable staying in Donghuang Yonggu College. Now that Kong Shinmu had come to take her away, of course, she would not stay in Donghuang Yonggu College. Moreover, she came to Donghuang Yonggu College to find Kong Shinmu. If she did not stay with Kong Shinmu, What difference would it make? She did not know how strong Kong Shinmu was now, but she felt that Kong Shinmu definitely needed support. If she did not speak up, she was afraid that Kong Shinmu would be bullied to death. After all, Lord Long was the strongest student in Donghuang Yanggu College, the #1 student in the Tianshu district. His status and strength were definitely not something that Kong Shinmu could compare with, right? Shi Weiying and Shi Yutong also stood up and said to Zhang Liuxue, "We'll also go with Kong Shinmu." Everyone from Donghuang Yanggu College. I'm sorry, but we are old friends with Kong Shinmu, so we definitely have to go with him. After the three girls said so, they felt that the people around them would understand them. After all, they had already decided to go with Kong Shinmu. No one would stop them, right? They had originally wanted to leave Donghuang Yanggu College, but now that they had Kong Shinmu's support, it would definitely not be a problem for them to join Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Moreover, there were more female students there, so it was more suitable for them to cultivate. Their strength would definitely improve faster there. After all, they had Kong Shinmu to guide them. However, just as they said this, Lord Long snorted coldly and immediately laughed. "Kong Shinmu, and my three sisters, you are really a joke. Where do you think our Donghuang Yanggu College is? Where do you think you can come and go as you please? Kong Shinmu, what right do you have to take away our students from Donghuang Yanggu College?" Hearing this, Kong Shinmu knew that these people would not let them go. Chapter 46-30. When Kong Shinmu proposed this condition, the surrounding noise finally stopped for a moment. Then, a burst of excited voices came out. The students of Donghuang Yanggu College had long wanted to see Kong Shinmu's strength, and now they finally had the chance. Moreover, Kong Shinmu was going to challenge the top student of Donghuang Yanggu College in the Tianshu district, Lord Long. Just now, Lord Long had warmed up and fought with several team members, and he won all of them easily. His momentum was too strong and fierce. With such a powerful strength, it was absolutely impossible for anyone in this world who was not at the level of Dragon Emperor mentors to defeat Lord Long. Didn't you hear the two Dragon Emperor mentors say with satisfaction that Lord Long's strength was already close to theirs? Of course, these words were said because they admired Lord Long. Maybe it was a bit exaggerated, but it was definitely enough to prove how strong Lord Long was now. Therefore, Lord Long would win. Kong Shinmu would lose. Soon, someone even shouted out this slogan. In the audience stand, Zhang Liuxue and the other two girls were also a little nervous. They didn't expect that Donghuang Yanggu College would not let them go, and they even asked Kong Shinmu to take the initiative to challenge Lord Long. They knew Lord Long's strength. His performance just now was amazing, and he was simply invincible. But they didn't know much about Kong Shinmu. After all, Kong Shinmu hadn't appeared in public in the last year or two, and no one knew about their achievements on the battlefield of the 9 races. In the whole Dragon Martial continent, perhaps only the Dean of Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy, Yu Yaji, and the chief mentor, Linghu Dai knew about Kong Shinmu's strength. The deans of the other 3 Dragon Martial Academies, of course, now knew that Kong Shinmu had been selected to cultivate in the macro world of the Dragon Gods, but they didn't know why he was selected. Killing Su Sanluo? This was a top secret. It was impossible for the ancient Phoenix clan to reveal this. This was because Kong Shinmu still hadn't grown up yet. Once news of this leaked out, the powerhouses of the Void human race would surely hunt him down. But that was not what the ancient Phoenix clan wanted. They wanted to wait for Kong Shinmu to completely rise. Once he grew up and possessed the ability to stand on his own, only then would they reveal this matter. At that time, Kong Shinmu and the Void humans would become mortal enemies and they would slaughter each other. This would be extremely beneficial to the ancient Phoenix clan. Of course, at this stage, Kong Shinmu was too weak. Naturally, they couldn't expose this information. As for the Holy Land of 5 Extremes Dark Ice, no one knew why Kong Shinmu had been chosen. Only Emperor Shi and the Divine Dragon knew about this. At the same time, a few of the highest decision-makers of the Dragon Gods also knew about this. Therefore, it could be said that no one present knew Jiang Shenwu's strength. He had no idea that Kong Shinmu had already reached the level where he could kill Su Sanluo. Although he had used Ling Yun's protective ring, his strength was enough to prove it. Even if others had Ling Yun's protective ring, they would only be able to withstand one blow from Su Sanluo. To kill Su Sanluo? That was simply wishful thinking. Therefore, Kong Shinmu's combat strength was basically above that of ordinary Dragon Martial Academy students. Susan Luo had killed a 7th-tier emperor before. That was in existence on the same level as the Dragon Emperor's mentor. And if Kong Shinmu could kill him, it meant that if Kong Shinmu used his full strength, he wouldn't be afraid of the Dragon Emperor's mentor. Of course, in public, he couldn't use a trick like the sky-imprisoning demon orb. The 3 top-notch desolate god demonic weapons of the demon god race could only be used when there was no one around to kill the opponent. However, although he couldn't use his full strength in public, and he wasn't a match for the Dragon Emperor's 7th-tier Dragon Emperor mentor, it was still a piece of cake for him to deal with Lord Long. As for Kong Shinmu, he had already felt Lord Long's aura and general strength. He wasn't afraid at all. But for Lord Long, when he heard Kong Shinmu take the initiative to challenge him, he was a little puzzled. This guy was meticulous and suspicious by nature. Now that Kong Shinmu took the initiative to challenge him, he couldn't help but be a little vigilant. Could it be that Kong Shinmu had some trump card that could defeat him? Lord Long was about to speak, but the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors behind him sent a telepathic message to his ear. Just accept his challenge. Don't be afraid. Even if he wins, he won't be able to take anyone away. The words of the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors boosted Lord Long's confidence. What they meant was that even if he lost to Kong Shinmu, he wouldn't have to bear any responsibility. With the Dragon Emperor mentors around, how could they let Kong Shinmu take away the students of Donghuang Yonggu College? Absolutely not. Therefore, Lord Long snorted coldly and sneered at Kong Shinmu. You said it yourself. If you can win, I won't stop you. But if you lose, do you have to pay anything? Otherwise, why should I accept your challenge for no reason? If you can win, I'll die in front of you. How about that? Jiang Shunwu faintly said such a sentence. This sentence was full of unparalleled contempt. It was an announcement that you, Lord Long, were absolutely no match for me, Kong Shinmu. These words were arrogant and sharp enough. It made Lord Long tremble with anger. How dare you, Kong Shinmu, look down on me so much? Lord Long was furious and immediately said, Kong Shinmu, this is what you said. If you lose, I'll take your life today. Today, you're in our Donghuang Yonggu College, and no one can save you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lord Long's black dragon body suddenly swept toward Kong Shinmu. He didn't give Kong Shinmu any time to prepare and directly launched a fierce attack. Many students of Donghuang Yonggu College were also caught off guard. After all, they thought that the referee would call for the start of the competition, but Lord Long directly launched a surprise attack. Isn't this a little inappropriate? After all, it's a fair battle. Senior brother Long actually launched a sneak attack first. Humph, of course it's fair to deal with others. But to deal with a traitor like Kong Shinmu, what's the need for fairness? As long as we kill him, that will do. Yes, Senior brother Long, go ahead. There's no need to talk about morality when dealing with a shameless person. Many people roared out loud, cheering for Lord Long. As Lord Long attacked Kong Shinmu, his dark talent instantly broke out and formed a black tornado, covering Kong Shinmu, who had not yet transformed into a dragon. Watch out, Kong Shinmu. Jiang Liuxue and the other 2 girls were a little scared. They were worried about Kong Shinmu, and at the same time, they felt that Lord Long's character was really terrible. But they didn't know, and neither did everyone present. Chapter 46-31. After all, Kong Shinmu mainly practiced the body-refining dragon martial arts. The opponent's sneak attack was certainly not strong enough. It was very likely that Lord Long's sneak attack had only exerted about 70% of his strength. But in order to attack Kong Shinmu quickly, he could not care so much. But for Kong Shinmu, who practiced the body-refining dragon martial arts, the last thing he was afraid of was a sneak attack. Everyone in the field saw the black tornado condensed by Lord Long and rolled toward Kong Shinmu. They seemed to see the scene of Kong Shinmu being destroyed by the black tornado. However, to their disappointment, guard posture. Kong Shinmu instantly turned into a dragon and displayed the guard posture. The power of the divine dragon covered his whole body, and the majestic power rippled out. The black tornado condensed by Lord Long burst out in an instant and fell on Kong Shinmu. But it could not break through Kong Shinmu's defense. Even Kong Shinmu was not hurt at all. The black dragon scales all over his body were perfect and smooth, shining with a black luster. They were like a steel fortress, completely blocking Lord Long's black tornado. Lord Long's black tornado was after all an advanced original source dragon martial art, and he had practiced it to the saint level. He had put a lot of effort into it. Unfortunately, for Lord Long, even a piece of rising dragon marrow was a very precious resource. However, for Kong Shin Mu, the rising dragon marrow was at his fingertips. In contrast, the gap between the cultivation resources available to the two sides was obvious. How could Lord Long fight with Kong Shin Mu when there was a gap between cultivation resources and cultivation talents? When the void crack first appeared, Lord Long was already a student of the Fecta area. According to reason, many students of the Fecta area should have broken through to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor and become mentors of the Dragon Emperor. Lord Long was still just a student. He had been stuck at the 4th level of Dragon Emperor for a long time, unable to break through. Was it because he didn't want to break through? Did he have to be the #1 student in the Heaven Center district? No, it was just that he was stuck, unable to break through. His cultivation level was still rising, but the grade of the divine dragon blood essence had not risen for a long time. Lord Long had been stuck at the 4th level of Dragon Emperor for nearly a year. During the last Academy tournament, he was already at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor. But in the past year, he had been constantly accumulating and absorbing the Dragon Mark's energy of heaven and earth treasures. Until now, there was still no sign of a breakthrough. This made Lord Long very uncomfortable. Was he going to be stuck at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor? If he wanted to break through to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, would he encounter a bottleneck? The possibility of this was quite high. Therefore, compared with Kong Shin Mu, he really couldn't do anything to Kong Shin Mu. His black tornado could not hurt Kong Shin Mu at all, which made Lord Long's face change. Then there was a burst of black light on his body, and countless black lines spread out from his divine dragon body. These black lines of light were a dragon weapon that had been compatible with him for a long time. It was a heaven-grade dragon weapon, which could give full play to its power. Under the eruption of these black lines of light, Lord Long once again condensed a black tornado. This storm was obviously much more violent than the previous one, at least 3 times stronger than the previous one. This made Kong Shin Mu feel some pressure. Kong Shin Mu's face darkened slightly, but the power of the divine dragon tyrant body outside his black dragon body did not waver at all. It still covered his body and protected him. At the same time, the devouring power also spread out and began to devour all the power around him. The power of the tornado just now was swallowed by Kong Shin Mu, which made Kong Shin Mu store the power of his dragon martial technique in his body. At the same time, the whole black dragon body had a stronger resistance to the opponent's power. The opponent's black tornado was 3 times stronger than before? It didn't matter. Kong Shin Mu's resistance to the opponent's power was also 3 times stronger. Kong Shin Mu had always been playing defensive counterattack, so he did not make a move at will, but waited for the opponent to attack. When the opponent's black tornado attacked once again, Jiang Shenwu's devouring power turned into a black curtain and met it head-on. Both sides collided in mid-air, causing waves of energy ripples to spread out in all directions. Part of the opponent's power broke through the devouring power barrier and fell directly on Kong Shin Mu's dragon body. However, now the opponent's power had been devoured by half. How could it still hurt Kong Shin Mu? The power of the black tornado fell on Kong Shin Mu's black dragon body and was directly cut open, flowing in all directions. And Kong Shin Mu's devouring power chased after the power of the black tornado and swallowed it into his body. His black dragon body was still unscathed. Seeing this scene, Lord Long could not believe his eyes. This Kong Shin Mu actually completely blocked his attack, and did not even suffer a slight injury? This was too terrifying. Lord Long had heard that Kong Shin Mu's defense was very strong, but now he knew that it was not just strong. Even dozens of strong were not enough to describe Kong Shin Mu's terrible defense. And the point was that Lord Long felt that Kong Shin Mu did not use any defensive dragon skills, but only used a strange power to offset half of his offensive power, and the rest of the power fell on Kong Shin Mu, unable to hurt Kong Shin Mu. Of course, he did not know that half of his offensive power was directly devoured by Kong Shin Mu. Seeing that his second attack did not have any effect, Lord Long's face became really gloomy. Then he wanted to fully exert the power of his heaven-grade dragon weapon, but before he could do so, Kong Shin Mu's counterattack arrived. Kong Shin Mu had just devoured his power, and now it directly burst out, condensing into a black tornado, and rushed towards Lord Long. Seeing this, Lord Long almost lost his ability to think. But his precious fighting experience made him react immediately. With a roar, he released an Earth-level Holy Dragon weapon. This Earth-grade Holy Dragon weapon was his defensive dragon weapon, which was given to them in advance by Donghuang Yongwu College, so that they could set foot on the battlefield of the 9 races. Chapter 46-32. Lord Long's defensive ability was not weak either. Of course, compared with Kong Shin-mu, it was not enough. His strongest blow had been swallowed by Kong Shin-mu. At this moment, when he fought back, he displayed his strongest defense, but he could not resist it. The black tornado bombarded his black protective barrier, causing cracks to appear on it. This situation made Lord Long's face extremely ugly. He was now completely sure that the black tornado Kong Shin-mu displayed was the advanced dragon martial skill that he had cultivated, and it was also the exclusive advanced dragon martial skill of Donghuang Yongwu College. But how could Kong Shin-mu cultivate it? Who leaked the cultivation secret manual to the outside world? Or did Kong Shin-mu learn this dragon martial skill before he left Donghuang Yongwu College? No matter which possibility it was, the most important thing was that Lord Long felt that the power contained in Kong Shin-mu's attack was similar to his talent. How could this be possible? Could it be that Jiang Xunwu had the same innate ability as him? No, absolutely impossible. This was the talent of counterattack. Lord Long immediately thought of some rumors about Kong Shin-mu. It was said that Kong Shin-mu had an extremely powerful talent of counterattack. He could swallow anyone's power and then fight back with the same method. Now it seemed that it was true. Lord Long's black protective barrier withstood the black tornado from Kong Shin-mu. The cracks on it began to increase, and after 3 breaths, the whole protective barrier was completely shattered. However, at the same time, Kong Shin-mu's attack seemed to be coming to an end. The power of the black tornado had been worn out by the protective barrier. However, right after that, Jiang Xunwu calmly unleashed an offensive dragon martial technique that truly belonged to him. Wind and Snow Dragon Stone. The snowstorm raged. Blizzard Blast was a primary Holy Spirit dragon martial technique, which was much more powerful than Lord Long's black tornado. With the help of Kong Shin-mu's devouring ability, no matter what Lord Long did, his power would be devoured by the blizzard. The 108 battle runes on the Snow Wind Dragon Stone all condensed their full power. This Snow Wind Dragon Stone had been with Kong Shin-mu for a long time, and he could already unleash 90% of its power. Therefore, when Jiang Xunwu activated the Blizzard Dragon Pattern Stone, the 108 offensive battle runes could increase his attack power by more than 2 times. The violent wind and snow condensed into a sky full of snow, covering the entire central square. Just now it was a pitch-black tornado, and now it was a black-colored snowstorm. This scene caused the spectating students of the Eastern Emperor Dragon Martial Academy to be shocked. How could Kong Shin-mu's dragon martial skill be so heterogeneous? It seemed that there were all kinds of attributes. Regarding Kong Shin-mu's combat power, those who were stronger should have heard of the existence of the counterattack talent. But most of the students of Donghuang Yongwu College could not even reach Kaiyang District, let alone Yuhing District. They had just joined Donghuang Yongwu College not long ago. They only heard that Kong Shin-mu was a traitor who betrayed Donghuang Yongwu College. But they did not know what specific deeds Kong Shin-mu had done. So now seeing Kong Shin-mu display 2 completely different skills, and one of them was very similar to Lord Long's, they could not help but tremble. Some of them thought that Kong Shin-mu was really a traitor who left Donghuang Yongwu College. Otherwise, how could he have the same advanced dragon martial skill as Lord Long? For these students, even if it was just an advanced dragon martial skill, it was already the top dragon martial skill, which could only be obtained after a lot of hard work and countless efforts. As for the Holy Spirit dragon martial skill, they really did not know much about it. After all, even Lord Long, the #1 in the Divine Center District, had not succeeded in practicing one move of the Holy Spirit dragon martial skill. Kong Shin-mu and the others all exchanged for advanced Holy Spirit dragon martial skills, but even Kong Shin-mu had so far only practiced the first level of the 9th extreme way of Roaring Dragon martial skill. It would take a long time for him to really put the Holy Spirit dragon martial skill into use in a real battle. In the snowstorm, Lord Long's protective barrier could not hold on at all. The protective barrier that he had just condensed didn't even last for 3 breaths of time in the snowstorm before it completely shattered. Then, His entire divine dragon body was covered by the snowstorm. In the snowstorm, his black dragon body that hadn't cultivated any body refinement dragon martial techniques wouldn't be able to last long at all before it shattered into pieces. I give up. Lord Long clenched his teeth and shouted unwillingly. He really did not expect that he would really lose to Kong Shin-mu. He was full of confidence in himself. Although he was also a little in awe of Kong Shin-mu, he always felt that Kong Shin-mu could not be his opponent. But now, he realized that there was indeed a gap between him and Kong Shin-mu. Kong Shin-mu's Snow Wind Dragonstone was an Earth-level Holy Spirit dragon weapon, and his defense was also an Earth-level Holy Spirit dragon weapon. But Kong Shin-mu's Snow Wind Dragonstone could break through his defense. Obviously, it was Kong Shin-mu's own strength that was too strong. Holy Spirit dragon weapons could only enhance the strength of dragon warriors, but they did not contain natural power. Therefore, in the case of the same level of Holy Spirit dragon weapons, it must be because Kong Shin-mu's own strength crushed Lord Long, so that Lord Long could not resist the attack of Kong Shin-mu. Lord Long felt extremely humiliated. After all, he now represented the first in the Imperial Center area of Donghuang Yonggu College, which was the title of the strongest student. But he lost to Kong Shin-mu. Didn't this mean that Donghuang Yonggu College was not as good as Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts College? When the crowd saw that Lord Long actually gave up, there was suddenly a dead silence. The originally noisy audience was now so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. No one thought that Lord Long could hold on for such a short time in front of Kong Shin-mu, and then directly gave up. But everyone could see that if he did not give up, Kong Shin-mu might really kill him directly. So no one said anything when Lord Long gave up. However, everyone in the field looked at Kong Shin-mu with a strange emotion in their eyes. They originally hated Kong Shin-mu. After all, Kong Shin-mu was a traitor of Donghuang Yonggu College. But now, they had a kind of awe for Kong Shin-mu. In this world the strong were respected. Although Kong Shin-mu had a bad reputation, Kong Shin-mu defeated Lord Long, and Kong Shin-mu was only at the third level of Dragon Emperor's Divine Dragon Blood Essence. If Kong Shin-mu also broke through to the fourth level of Dragon Emperor's Divine Dragon Blood Essence, wouldn't he be able to beat Lord Long easily? Chapter 46-33. Kong Shin-mu was too strong. Even at this moment, the image of Kong Shin-mu soaring in the sky as a black dragon was deeply engraved in everyone's mind. Jiang Liuxue and Shi Yueying did not expect Kong Shin-mu to be Lord Long's opponent. Not only did he defeat Lord Long, but he also forced Lord Long to admit defeat. It had to be said that Kong Shin-mu's combat ability was too strong. Was this Kong Shin-mu's strength? Even the top student of Donghuang Yonggu College was no match for Kong Shin-mu? So what was Kong Shin-mu's current strength in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy? No matter what Kong Shin-mu's ranking in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy was, today's battle with Lord Long had shown that his strength had reached a very high level. Many people even felt that Kong Shin-mu did not use his full strength at all. Or to put it in other words, for Kong Shin-mu, Lord Long was not a threat at all. Even if Kong Shin-mu was not hurt at all, he was still far from Kong Shin-mu's limit. For a guy like Lord Long, even if two of him attacked Kong Shin-mu at the same time, Kong Shin-mu would not be afraid. Of course, in that case, he would also be in some trouble. After all, if two opponents of this level attacked Kong Shin-mu at the same time, Kong Shin-mu's defense would not be solid, and it would definitely be broken by the opponent. However, he could still use the Wind Shadow Flowing Flash at the critical moment. He had many tricks up his sleeve, and he could not only fight head-on with his opponent. Unfortunately, with Lord Long's strength, he was not qualified to force Kong Shin-mu to use other tricks. At this moment, Lord Long had no choice but to admit defeat. Kong Shin-mu did not have a trace of arrogance on his face. For him, his vision was no longer on the 4 Dragon Martial Arts Academies in the Dragon Martial Arts continent. Of course, Kong Shin-mu would not forget his roots. He knew very well that he could rise because he joined the Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Even for Donghuang Yonggu College and the Dragon of Calamity, Kong Shin-mu had no objection. After all, without Donghuang Yonggu College, he might not have the opportunity to go to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy and obtain so many cultivation resources, which gave him the strength he had today. Zhua Xiaofeng was the only one who disagreed with Jiang Shunwu. Of course, apart from Zhua Xiaofeng, there were also some Dragon Emperor mentors under Zhua Xiaofeng, such as Bian Feng and Chou Jingyun. These lackeys who stood on Zhuo Xiaofeng's side were also very annoying to Kong Xinmu. If there was a chance, he would definitely kill them. Unfortunately, if Kong Xinmu met Bian Feng and Chou Jingyun now, it was very likely that he would not be a match for them. After all, they both had the Divine Dragon's Essence Blood of level 7 of the Dragon Emperor. This level of Divine Dragon's Essence Blood was 4 levels stronger than Kong Xinmu's, which could not be made up by other means. Kong Xinmu could deal with the Dragon Emperor's Essence Blood of level 6, but if it was the Dragon Emperor's Essence Blood of level 7, he would have to risk his life, and he might not be able to defeat it. Of course, Kong Xinmu knew that there were strong and weak dragon warriors in different cultivation realms, and their strengths were all different. If it was the weakest of the Dragon Emperor's Essence Blood of level 7, Kong Xinmu could indeed try to fight against it now. Since Lord Long had admitted defeat, Kong Xinmu did not chase after him. He withdrew the power of the snowstorm and swallowed it all into his body to store. Then, Kong Xinmu raised his head, looked at Lord Long and asked faintly, "Now, can I take my friends and leave?" If the other party wanted to stop him, no matter what means, Kong Xinmu would take it. But if the other party did not stop him, it would naturally be the best. Unfortunately, for Donghuang Yongwu College, if Kong Xinmu really took away the 3 of them today, it would be too embarrassing. So today, no matter what, Donghuang Yongwu College would not let them go so easily. Faced with Kong Xinmu's question, Lord Long removed his dragon form and returned to his human form. He smiled and said, "Kong Xinmu, although you have defeated me, it is still impossible for you to take away our junior sister from Donghuang Yongwu College. I only said that if I lose to you, I will not stop you. But, did I say that other people from Donghuang Yongwu College will not stop you?" At this moment, the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors who had been watching the battle stood out. One of the Dragon Emperor mentors looked at Kong Xinmu and said faintly, "In our Donghuang Yongwu College, Lord Long may not be the strongest. Of course, since you have defeated Lord Long, you are indeed the top among the students. Today, I will give you another chance. As long as you can defeat your next opponent, you can take them away. Your opponent is Zhu Wudi, Qin Xiaoye. You two come out. Although you did not fight with Lord Long in the last college competition, your strength should not be too far from his. You two join forces and fight with Kong Xinmu. Don't disgrace our Donghuang Yongwu College." As soon as these words came out, Kong Xinmu suddenly narrowed his eyes. As for Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi who were sitting in the spectator seats, their faces stiffened. They had just been praising Kong Xinmu's strength for being much stronger than before, but they did not expect that the Dragon Emperor mentors would burn the fire on them. Let them join forces and fight with Kong Xinmu? Who were they looking down on? No matter what, they did not have to fight 2 against 1 and bully others, right? But, if they really wanted to fight with Kong Xinmu alone, they did not think it was appropriate, because they were certainly no match for Kong Xinmu. It was obvious that Kong Xinmu did not use all his strength when fighting with Lord Long just now. Even when Kong Xinmu had shown his strength, it was basically their full strength. So if they wanted to defeat Kong Xinmu, it was absolutely impossible if they did not join forces. But even if they joined forces, could they defeat Kong Xinmu? The 2 looked at each other and asked themselves this question in their hearts. In the end, they found that they really did not know what the result of this battle would be. "What, you don't want to fight?" The middle-aged mentors, Dragon Emperor, looked directly at Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi and snorted. "Are you still a member of Donghuang Yongwu College? If you are, then don't be long-winded and fight. This is the time for you to fight for Donghuang Yongwu College." For the sake of Donghuang Yongwu College, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were a little conflicted, but in the end, they got up and flew to the field. "Kong Xinmu, let's fight today." Zhu Wudi flew up and cupped his hands towards Kong Xinmu. "I admit that I am absolutely no match for you in a one-on-one fight, so I will fight with Qin Xiaoye. Please forgive me." Qin Xiaoye also looked at Kong Xinmu and said softly, "Kong Xinmu, today we came out to fight, not to stop you from taking your friend away. Just treat it as a spar between friends. Even if we win, we'll still help you take your friend away." Chapter 46-34. No one had expected Qin Xiaoye to say something like that. If Kong Xinmu won against her and Zhu Wudi, they would still help Kong Xinmu take his friends away? That was too much. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were also well-known figures in Donghuang Yonggu College. Any student in the Divine Center district was the same, and their names would be known throughout the entire student body. Therefore, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi also had many fans. Some people had heard that Qin Xiaoye admired Kong Xinmu, and that Zhu Wudi and Kong Xinmu were friends. However, no one had expected Qin Xiaoye to say something like that, to help Kong Xinmu send the students of Donghuang Yonggu College to other dragon martial colleges. Crazy, too crazy. Everyone looked at Qin Xiaoye in shock, including the two Dragon Emperor mentors. They had not expected this at all. More importantly, when Qin Xiaoye said this, not only did Zhu Wudi not object at all, but he looked as if it was only natural, which made everyone feel like they were struck by lightning. That was too much. Were Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi trying to rebel? The two Dragon Emperor mentors' faces darkened. Qin Xiaoye, Zhu Wudi, do you not want to stay in Donghuang Yonggu College anymore? If that's the case, we'll immediately ask the dean to let you leave Donghuang Yonggu College and leave Donghuang College. Their words clearly indicated that they wanted to let Zhuo Xiaofeng know about today's incident. Unfortunately, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi did not care at all. They laughed coldly. Don't think we don't know what the dean is thinking. If the two of us are kicked out, our mentors will definitely not stand by and watch. I'm afraid they will also leave Donghuang Yonggu College. Also, if our mentors leave, do you think our students will still stay in Donghuang Yonggu College? The two Dragon Emperor mentors' faces darkened when they heard this. Indeed, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi represented many things. Among them, Qin Xiaoye was Chu Yueqiang's student. This was something Kong Xinmu found out later. Zhu Wudi's teacher was Tan Shouzhua. The relationship between them was similar to that between Kong Xinmu and Chu Yi. Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang were not ordinary Dragon Emperor mentors in Donghuang Yonggu College. They were among the top few, and their names were on the Dragon Emperor list. How could an ordinary Dragon Emperor compare? Moreover, it was said that these two mentors were very protective. With their talents, both of them had been in contact with the existence of the Dragon God clan's great world, so they had directly faced strong people at the level of the Supreme Divine Dragon. It was not easy for Zhuo Xiaofeng to deal with these two mentors. If these two mentors really left Donghuang Yonggu College together, Zhuo Xiaofeng would definitely be in trouble. This was because the students from Donghuang Yonggu College would serve the Dragon of Calamity in the future, and those from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy would serve Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon. Although they were all from the Dragon God clan, the Supreme Divine Dragon they served was different. Their treatment would also be different, and it would affect the balance between the various Supreme Divine Dragons. Originally, Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon and the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky were similar in strength. However, if Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua really left Donghuang Yonggu College and joined Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, then Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon's power would be stronger than the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky. It might not be obvious in a short period of time. However, there were definitely many students who left with these two mentors. These were the geniuses among the geniuses of Donghuang Yonggu College. Once they followed Tan Shouzhua and Chu Yueqiang to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, the number of geniuses under Emperor Shi Mystical Dragon would far exceed that of the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky. If the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky knew about this, how could he let Zhuo Xiaofeng off easily? At best, Zhuo Xiaofeng was just an ordinary subordinate of the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky. Although his talent was not bad, the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky did not lack subordinates like him. For the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky, if Zhuo Xiaofeng made a big mistake, it was possible that the Dragon of Calamity in the Clear Sky would directly kill him. This was also the restrictive relationship between mentor Donghuang Dragon Emperor and Zhuo Xiaofeng. Now, Zhuo Xiaofeng only wanted to secretly harm Kong Xinmu. If Zhuo Xiaofeng intended to drive Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua away with great fanfare, then Zhuo Xiaofeng would be completely finished, and even the gods would not be able to save him. Kong Xinmu also did not know what Zhuo Xiaofeng was thinking. Just because of Yu Tianchong, he was actually so persistent in pursuing him? It would have been better to just kill him himself. Now that so many things had happened, and Zhuo Xiaofeng could only watch as Kong Xinmu continued to rise, he could not do anything about Kong Xinmu at all. With Yu Yaji's protection, even Zhuo Xiaofeng was no match for Yu Yaji in the battle of the Super Divine Dragon level. Needless to say, if this matter were to be reported to the Supreme Divine Dragon expert, Zhuo Xiaofeng would be in even more trouble. Therefore, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were simply not on the same path as Zhuo Xiaofeng. Now, the two Dragon Emperor mentors in the field were naturally on Zhuo Xiaofeng's side. Unfortunately, they could not command Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi at all. Therefore, immediately afterward, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi directly decided on this matter. If they lost to Kong Xinmu, then they would definitely help Kong Xinmu and take the three girls away from Donghuang Yonggu College. They would never go back on their word. Okay, I accept your challenge. Their attitude towards Lord Long was different from before. When facing Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, Kong Xinmu was still quite respectful, because he intuitively felt that each of them was stronger than Lord Long. Moreover, if the two of them joined forces, it would also be a test for him. Rather than saying that Lord Long was the #1 student of Donghuang Yonggu College, it would be better to say that Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were the peak of the current Donghuang students. The other students who were stronger than them had already become Dragon Emperor mentors. And Lord Long was the weakest among the previous batch of students. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, on the other hand, were the strongest among the current batch of students. Both of them had inherited the blood essence of the 4th level of Dragon Emperor, and their cultivation had reached the 7th level of the Samsara realm, which was the same as Lord Long. But Kong Xinmu felt that Lord Long did not have much fighting experience on the battlefield of the 9 races, so he did not have that kind of hidden murderous aura. But Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were different. Their murderous aura was much stronger than Lord Long's. Lord Long's so-called #1 in the Divine Center area was only the result of the school competition more than half a year ago. In this half a year, everyone's strength would have undergone earth-shaking changes. There was no doubt that Lord Long was now no match for Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi. Under everyone's gaze, the three of them did not say much. Chapter 46-35. The moment Kong Xinmu transformed into a dragon, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi had already attacked Kong Xinmu. Qin Xiaoye's strength was definitely not weak. At this moment, a light blue whirlwind whistled, containing countless sword and saber lights condensed from the power of reincarnation. This light blue whirlwind containing countless sword and saber lights whistled. In an instant, it enveloped Kong Xinmu's entire divine dragon body. The sword and saber lights swept across and enveloped Kong Xinmu. Guardian stance. Kong Xinmu immediately broke out the defensive means of the Dragon Tyrant Body Technique. A thick layer of Dragon Tyrant Body Technique covered his whole body. At the same time, Zhu Wudi's attack came from another direction. Zhu Wudi's Divine Dragon Essence Blood was the Mystic Moon Wind Dragon. Its attack was extremely fast, almost reaching first even though it was launched later. The power of the whirlwind was like rolling waves, roaring and crashing down on Kong Xinmu. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi's joint attack alone was far more powerful than the one Lord Long had just displayed. But now, Kong Xinmu's whole body was protected by the Dragon Tyrant Body Technique. When the power of the two bombarded Kong Xinmu felt as if his divine dragon body was being torn apart. Their joint attack was very fierce. Kong Xinmu's Dragon Tyrant Body Technique was directly torn apart. Then the combined power of the two destroyed some of the dragon scales on Kong Xinmu's body, crushing them into pieces. Dragon blood flew out like a whirlwind, as if Kong Xinmu had been seriously injured. This scene made all the students of Donghuang Yonggu College exclaim, "Too strong." Just now, Lord Long could not penetrate the same defense and break Kong Xinmu's power of protection. But now, Zhu Wudi and Qin Xiaoye had directly broken through Kong Xinmu's defense. The primary Holy Dragon technique has been cultivated to the dragon level. Not bad. Kong Xinmu's expression changed slightly. He felt the power of the two. They had actually cultivated the primary Holy Dragon technique to the dragon level. This was far more powerful than a high-grade origin dragon martial skill that was only cultivated to the heaven grade. Even if a high-grade origin dragon martial skill was cultivated to the saint grade, or even the extreme grade, it might not be able to reach the power of these two moves. This was the Holy Dragon technique, a dragon technique that truly matched the Dragon Emperor's Dragon Essence Blood. The original Source Dragon technique, in the macro world of the Dragon Gods, was actually only the dragon technique cultivated by the Dragon King. In comparison, it was much weaker. The power that erupted from the two of them was somewhat difficult for Jiang Shunwu to withstand. At the very least, it would be somewhat difficult for him to withstand it if he only relied on the Divine Dragon Tyrant body art. However, The combined attacks of the two of them did not cause Jiang Shenwu any serious injuries. Although the dragon blood flew out, it was far from the injuries that Kong Shinmu suffered in a real fight. Kong Shinmu had been cut into 3 pieces in a real fight. Even if he was cut into 3 pieces, he could find a way to win in a desperate situation, let alone in this situation. Devouring power. Kong Shinmu's devouring power suddenly burst out, covering his whole body. It was as if endless black smoke spread out from his body, swallowing all the power of the mystic moon and heavenly wind that enveloped him into his own body. Qin Xiaoye's power was also directly devoured by Kong Shinmu. In the end, he did not suffer any injuries, and directly broke through the 2 attacks of his opponents. However, since Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were friends with Kong Shinmu, they must have some understanding of Kong Shinmu. They knew that Kong Shinmu's strength was not in defense, but in the counterattack after defense. Therefore, they did not intend to give Kong Shinmu any more chances. Although they still wanted to help Kong Shinmu today, if they could occasionally join forces and defeat Kong Shinmu, it would be a real milestone for their cultivation. They knew that if they defeated Kong Shinmu, they would move forward. But if they lost to Kong Shinmu, their mentality would not be affected too much. In any case, they already felt that they were no match for Kong Shinmu. In other words, they felt that they could not defeat Kong Shinmu, but as long as there was a hope of winning, they would definitely want to win. This would absolutely have a big impact on their cultivation. Ultimate kill, Fangs of the Absolute Wind. Zhu Wudi directly used another low-level Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique he cultivated, and also cultivated it to the level of dragon. It was obvious that he had spent a lot of effort on this dragon martial technique. At the same time, he also released a dragon weapon, an Earth-level Holy Spirit Dragon weapon. This Earth-level Holy Spirit Dragon weapon was like a mirror, and the whirlwind energy of his absolute wind Fangs of the Absolute Wind was absorbed by this mirror. Immediately after, the whirlwind energy exploded, becoming more than 3 times stronger than before. However, this absolute wind Fangs of the Absolute Wind wasn't targeted at Kong Shinmu, because it was not an attack dragon martial technique. After the wind Fangs of the Absolute Wind Fangs were strengthened by the Earth-level Holy Spirit Dragon weapon mirror, they directly enveloped Qin Xiaoye's body. Under the power of the absolute wind Fangs of the Absolute Wind Fangs, Qin Xiaoye's aura instantly rose. Almost in an instant, the aura on Qin Xiaoye made Kong Shinmu feel a sense of danger. This kind of danger was almost equivalent to when he faced the Talisman Water Tribe woman, a danger that could kill him. Amazing! Not waiting for Kong Shinmu to sigh, not waiting for Kong Shinmu to make a move, Qin Xiaoye's next dragon martial technique exploded. She also used an Earth-level Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, which showed that Qin Xiaoye and her team had gained a lot during this period of time. Even if it was not as much as Kong Shinmu's team, it was still much more than Lord Long's team. And this was definitely something that they had exchanged their lives for. Kong Shinmu's team had the help of the hidden Black Dragon Stone, which was why they could hunt their opponents in a relatively stable manner in the past 6 months. But Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi did not have something like the hidden Black Dragon Stone. The cultivation resources they obtained were all exchanged for Guardian Points. And Guardian Points could only be obtained by fighting on the battlefield. Their Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique and Holy Spirit Dragon weapon were exchanged during this period of time. Chapter 46-36. In Qin Xiaoye's team, other than Zhu Wudi, there was also Chu Yi, Luo Han, and Su Qin. Kong Shinmu also saw them in the spectator stands below. Although they had not transformed into dragons, Kong Shinmu could still see that they had improved a lot compared to before. Although they could not compare to Xiao Yuhua and the other 3, they were much ahead of the ordinary students of the Dragon Martial Academy. Even if their strength had not reached the peak, their improvement speed was already much faster than the others. The elementary Divine Dragon technique that Qin Xiaoye used was actually not very powerful. At most, it could injure Kong Shinmu a little. However, this move of hers had been enhanced by Zhu Wudi's dragon technique. The power of the absolute wind Fangs was enhanced by the dragon weapon and shot straight out of the mirror, enveloping Qin Xiaoye's body. This increased the power of her next dragon technique by at least 3 times. Moreover, Qin Xiaoye herself had used an earth-grade divine dragon weapon. The combined effect was simply terrifying. It was no wonder that their team could survive on the battlefield until now without something like the black concealing dragon stone. Not only that, They could repeatedly kill their opponents and hunt for guardian points to improve themselves. Now that Zhu Wudi and Qin Xiaoye were working together, Kong Xinmu felt threatened. It was clear that their combined strength was no less than that of the talisman Xueqi woman he had seen earlier. Moreover, if the two of them were the main fighting force, the other members of the team must have also cultivated some supplementary dragon techniques. For example, a movement-type dragon technique could increase the speed of the entire team, or they could directly travel through the void. Of course, the method of traveling through the void was more difficult to comprehend, but it did not exclude the possibility that they had talent for it. Another example was a dragon technique that weakened the opponent's curse, or a probing or concealment-type dragon technique. This was a complete team. This was also the reason why Lin Shuang could join the Lord Dragon team. Lin Shuang's probing ability was not bad. Unfortunately, the Lord Dragon team did not have a top fighting force. That was the combination of Kong Xinmu's teams Kong Xinmu and Qin Xiaoye's teams Zhu Wudi. In Lord Dragon's team, no one could stand alone. When they encountered real danger, they had no way to solve it. Therefore, on the battlefield, Lord Long's team was very cautious. They were not as arrogant and domineering as Kong Xinmu's team. Of course, they could not cooperate as well as Qin Xiaoye's team. At this moment, as Qin Xiaoye's dragon breath gushed towards Kong Xinmu, he could feel the destructive aura contained within it. It was a type of fire attribute energy, a fire attribute dragon martial technique. The flames swept along the way, and it was as if even the void was burned to ashes by them. Wind Snow Dragon Vein Stone. At this moment, Kong Xinmu had no choice but to activate the Blizzard Dragon Stone again. A storm of ice and snow erupted from his divine dragon body, enveloping his surroundings and turning them into a world of ice and snow. The billowing dragon breath and destructive flame surged over, directly melting the ice and snow in one direction, and then fell on Kong Xinmu's divine dragon body. This speed was too fast. Kong Xinmu did not even have time to use the sunset shadow. Or it could be said that Kong Xinmu barely managed to use the sunset shadow after the Blizzard Dragonstone resisted the opponent for a moment. But at this moment, Kong Xinmu had been burned by the opponent's flame breath, and one side of his body had been completely burnt to a crisp. If it weren't for the blade shadow of the rosy glow that was fast enough, his entire black dragon body would have been burned into two. It was conceivable that the combined strength of Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi far exceeded that of Lord Long. If Qin Xiaoye's team and Lord Long's team fought each other, perhaps Lord Long's team would not be their match. This was a real elite team. One could imagine how great a loss it would be for Donghuang Yongwu College if all of them withdrew from Donghuang Yongwu College. To the Clear Sky Calamity Dragon, losing so many talented and well-coordinated elite dragon martial artist students was an immeasurable loss. Zhua Xiaofeng really could not do anything to the two mentors, Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua. Especially in the current environment where the 9 major races were invading, Zhua Xiaofeng did not dare to act recklessly. Kong Xinmu was seriously injured. His whole body seemed to be burned by flames, and hot air constantly came from the burns. The Dark Dragon Inferno spell continuously healed his injuries, but he discovered that the rate of recovery was very slow. Qin Xiaoye's dragon martial technique was too powerful. It was a fire dragon's breath attack, and it made it so that the injuries suffered by the opponent could not quickly recover. Kong Xinmu felt that even if he could devour the Devil Core, the power of the Devil Core could not be quickly transformed into life energy. This was the domineering part of Qin Xiaoye's technique. You actually dodged it. Kong Xinmu, you're so fast. Qin Xiaoye saw that Kong Xinmu had only suffered a little injury before he quickly dodged. She was fascinated by his method of traveling through the void. Too powerful. This was definitely not because of his speed, but because Kong Xinmu had directly traveled through the void. This kind of method related to the void was extremely difficult for students below the level of Mentor Dragon Emperor to comprehend and understand. Therefore, in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, not many people practiced the Sunset Glow Flash, mainly because it was too difficult to practice. Of course, if one could reach the level of Mentor Dragon Emperor, which was the level of the Divine Dragon's blood essence of the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor's Divine Dragon inheritance, then the source of life would be further improved, and the understanding of space would be greatly enhanced. But before that, there was almost no one who could cultivate the Sunset Glow Flash to the high level. Even Jiang Xinwu was only able to reach his current level of attainment in the Sun Shadow Flowing Sunglow Flash by devouring Linghu Dai Er's Ultimate Saint Realm Sun Shadow Flowing Sunglow Flash. Otherwise, before he started cultivating the Sun shadow-flowing sunglow flash, his speed would be slow, and the distance he could traverse was too short. Most importantly, he could not use it continuously. In an intense battle, it would be useless. It could only be used once, and could not be used multiple times. At most, it could save his life once. Of course, now that Kong Shinmu had reached a higher level, his understanding of the sunset glow flash far exceeded that of his peers. He was even confident that even in the Dragon God's great world, he would not be too far behind other dragon martial artists. After all, he had assisted in cultivating the power of void. Chapter 46-37. Kong Shinmu had cultivated quite a number of dragon techniques before. This included the Laughing Flowers Phoenix Dance burning the 9 heavens, Xiao Bai's ice-splitting heaven-breaking slash, and so on. They were all superior grade origin dragon martial techniques. Although Jiang Shenwu had not cultivated them to a high level, when combined with Jiang Shenwu's devouring power, their destructive power was still relatively strong. At this moment, he directly unleashed 2 such attacks. Phoenix Dance burning the sky. Ice-splitting sky slash. Kong Shinmu's devouring power simulated the power of Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai, and then burst out with 2 fierce attacks. These 2 attacks did not look as fierce as Qin Xiaoye's flame dragon breath, but Kong Shinmu attacked both of them at the same time. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi had not cultivated the body-refining dragon technique, so they could either dodge or use defensive dragon techniques to resist the attacks. Kong Shinmu's attack speed was very fast, not giving them any chance to dodge. A terrifying power burst out at this moment, causing the 2 to be on high alert. They gathered all the talent power in their bodies to form a defensive dragon technique. A protective barrier condensed in front of Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, but they did not expect that Kong Shinmu's 2 attacks would not hurt them at all. Although these 2 attacks were high-grade source dragon techniques, Kong Shinmu had only cultivated them to the earth level, so they were far inferior to Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai's attacks. They were probably not even 30% as powerful as the 2 girls. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, on the other hand, had experienced many life-and-death situations on the battlefield of the 9 races, so they had never underestimated the cultivation of defensive dragon techniques. Therefore, although the defensive dragon technique they displayed was condensed in an instant, it still had extremely strong defensive power. Kong Shinmu's 2 attacks did not do anything to them at all. But before they could react, Kong Shinmu's next wave of attacks came. 9th Stage Extreme Dao Draconic Explosion. Previously, when Kong Shinmu cultivated this high-grade Divine Spirit Dragon technique, he had already cultivated it to the 1st stage. Now that he was under pressure, the power of this technique suddenly broke through and directly rose to the 2nd stage. The power of the 2nd stage 9 Ultimate Dragon Explosion was already more than twice that of the 1st stage. At this moment, 2 dark dragon breaths exploded from the 2 defensive dragon martial skills. A terrifying power exploded with a loud bang. It was as if 2 valiant black divine dragons had self-destructed near the opponent's defensive barrier. The sound almost shook the entire arena. Originally, when the surrounding Donghuang Yangwu College saw that Kong Shinmu's counterattack of the 2 dragon techniques did not seem to pose any threat to the 2, many people even talked behind Kong Shinmu and looked down on Kong Shinmu behind his back. But when the 2 black dragon breaths exploded, a terrifying wave of power instantly spread in all directions. Jiang Shenwu had also activated the offensive battle runes of the Blizzard Dragonstone when he executed these 2 layers of Darkness Dragon Breathlight explosions, causing them to erupt with at least 2 times the power. At this moment, it was like the heavens were falling and the earth was splitting apart, directly shattering Qin Xiaoye and Absolute Invincible's defensive power into smithereens. The 2 immediately condensed another defensive dragon technique, but it was already too late. Under the protection of their respective dragon weapons, the 2 hurriedly retreated backward. The black dragon breaths exploded with a loud bang. The 2 of them had seen the opportunity early, and when the defensive barrier was about to be broken, they had already realized that something was wrong, so they quickly retreated. This move of Kong Shinmu attacked 2 people at the same time. It was incomparably fast and frightening. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were directly injured by the 2 light explosions. Although they were not seriously injured, they were momentarily dizzy. It was impossible for them to continue fighting in this state. In other words, if they were on the battlefield, they would basically have lost most of their combat ability after suffering such an attack. If they were facing an enemy, they would most likely die. Of course, Kong Shinmu would not kill them. Seeing that they were shaken by the 9 layers of the ultimate Dao Hui Dragon Blast, he stopped. Not only did the 9 layers of the ultimate Dao Hui Dragon Blast have extremely strong destructive power, but it also had a shocking effect on the enemy. If the difference in strength between the two sides was relatively large, one move could directly shock the opponent to death. Unfortunately, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi were not at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation level and the essence of the divine dragon inheritance to Kong Shinmu, so they were not shaken too badly and quickly regained consciousness. This move, it's a high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon technique. The 2 Dragon Emperor mentors who were watching the battle from the side stared at the 9 layers of the ultimate Dao Hui Dragon Blast that Kong Shinmu had displayed. The black dragon breathlight wave erupted, its aura shaking the entire place, allowing the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors to immediately see the level of Kong Shinmu's dragon technique. This is too strong. He actually cultivated a high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon technique? It must be known that this level of dragon martial skill was something that even many top-notch Dragon Emperor instructors might not possess. For example, Chu Yueqiang, Tan Shouzhua and the others were already top-notch Dragon Emperor instructors. Right now, the dragon martial skill that they mainly cultivated was the intermediate Divine Spirit Dragon martial skill. There was no advanced Divine Spirit Dragon martial skill to cultivate. This was because the powerhouses at the level of the Dragon Emperor mentors did not have a stage in the battlefield of the 9 major races, nor did they have a place to obtain guardian points. Naturally, they were not as comfortable as Kong Shinmu and the others. If the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors knew that the 5 members of Kong Shinmu's team had already cultivated a high-grade Holy Spirit Dragon technique, they were afraid that they would die of anger. It was really infuriating to compare oneself with others. If they knew the truth, it would be impossible for them not to die of anger. As for the surrounding students of Donghuang Yongwu College, few of them could recognize the level of the dragon technique that Kong Shinmu had displayed. They could only see that Kong Shinmu was very strong, and that he had shocked and injured Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi with just one move. This was an extremely strong move. If Kong Shinmu had used this move to deal with Lord Long just now, no one could say for sure whether Lord Long would still be alive or not. Just now, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi had suffered the impact of Kong Shinmu's black dragon breathlight explosion together, but their defense barrier had been directly shattered, and their whole person fell into a state of dizziness. And just now, Lord Long was alone. If he had to bear such an attack from Kong Shinmu alone, he would probably be dead by now. When Kong Shinmu used the 9th Extreme Dao Dragon Blast to shock Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi back, the whole square was almost completely silent. Although many of the students present did not know the specific strength of Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, the move that Zhu Wudi had just performed with Qin Xiaoye's assistance was already powerful enough to crush Lord Long's level. Now, Kong Shinmu had unexpectedly defeated both of them once again. It was conceivable that in front of Kong Shinmu, Lord Long's strength was really not enough. The gap was too big. Chapter 46-38. Kong Shinmu's 9 ultimate dragon explosion was like a thunderclap, shaking the whole Donghuang Yongwu College. How rare and difficult was it to cultivate a high-grade divine spirit dragon martial skill? Kong Shinmu had succeeded in cultivating it. Although this move was not particularly strong and did not have overwhelming combat power, even when facing Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, they still had time to retreat and save their lives. But it was already strong enough. It should be noted that the combat power shown by Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi was far beyond Lord Long's level. Kong Shinmu could even defeat them easily, which showed that Kong Shinmu's combat power was far beyond the overall combat power of the students of Donghuang Yongwu College. Some people even suspected that the old students who had just broken through to the level of Dragon Emperor were no match for Kong Shinmu. They didn't know. After reaching the level of Dragon Emperor, they would be sent to the macro world of dragon gods to cultivate for the first year. This year was to help them understand this world and provide some new cultivation resources. So now, Yu Tianchong, Feng Ligei, Gu Yuxing, Emperor Qin, and other people who had just become Dragon Emperor's mentors rarely appeared in the Dragon Martial Continent or the Dragon Martial Fortress. Some of them would not return to the Dragon Martial Continent. But some people would still come back because the Dragon Martial Continent would soon need them. On the battlefield of the 9 clans, strong people at the level of Dragon Emperor's mentors would soon be allowed to set foot on it. At that time, it would be a real life and death moment. Of course, this was for many people. Kong Shinmu already knew that the high-level leaders of the dragon gods had reached an agreement with the 9 clans. Although the battlefield would continue, no matter what the final result was, the dragon martial continent would not be enslaved. It would only be used as a training ground. For the dragon gods, there were indeed many good seedlings in the dragon martial continent. If they trained well, it would be good for the dragon gods as a whole in the future. Many people in the upper echelons were looking forward to the emergence of more genius dragon martial artists in the martial dragon continent. This year, there were many dragon warriors who had broken through to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, and they were all sent to the dragon gods to study and cultivate. These dragon warriors were geniuses in the dragon martial continent, but in the dragon gods' big world, most of them could only be regarded as ordinary, and only a few of them could be regarded as real geniuses. For example, Yu Tianchong, Feng Ligei, Gu Yuxing, Emperor Qin, and a few others were all quite talented in the dragon gods' macro world. Of course, it was only not bad. How vast was the great world of the dragon gods? How many dragon warriors were there? How strong were they? Yu Tianchong and the others, who were considered top-notch talents in the dragon martial continent, could only be regarded as above average in the macro world of the dragon gods, not the strongest. As for those experts who had reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, their talents were above average in the dragon martial continent, but in the dragon god clan, they could only be regarded as average talents. Because of this, if they could not reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor in the dragon martial continent, their talents were completely below average in the macro world of the dragon gods, and there was no need to waste the resources of the macro world of the dragon gods. Some people would say that the cultivation resources of the dragon martial continent were far inferior to those of the macro world of the dragon gods. If the dragon martial continent was given the same cultivation conditions, there would be more dragon warriors in the dragon martial continent who could reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. However, it was important to know that cultivation resources were limited. The portion that could be distributed in the dragon martial continent was also limited. Only the 4 major dragon martial academies had rich dragon mark energy for the dragon warriors to absorb. There was no dragon mark energy in other places. As for the 4 major dragon martial academies, only young dragon warriors with enough talent could join. Although some geniuses would be missed under the current selection system, on the whole, they were still good. Those who could join the dragon martial academies were definitely the most talented batch in the dragon martial continent. As for what level they would be in the macro world of the dragon gods, they would naturally be 1 level lower, and talent could indeed decide everything. There was no need to mention Yu Tianchong. After all, Yu Yaji, the dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, was her aunt. However, people like Emperor Qin and Feng Ligei were both ordinary geniuses in the country of the Dragon Emperor, and they did not have any background. Although Emperor Qin had lost to Yu Tianchong, his talent and strength were definitely not weak. Of course, Kong Shinmu did not like Emperor Qin very much, because he had seen Emperor Qin several times, and every time, he was too arrogant. Although his talent was top-notch in the dragon martial continent, in the macro world of the dragon gods, Emperor Qin was only above average. Sooner or later, he would have to bow down to others, and to his peers. With his arrogant character, when the time came, he would bow down to others, but he would look down on his peers in the dragon martial continent. How could Kong Shinmu admire him? As for Feng Ligei, it was said that this girl came from a lot of different backgrounds, and she did not soar to the sky in one go in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. After she was selected by chance to enter Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, she worked hard in her cultivation. She first built a solid foundation, and only then did she dare to raise her cultivation level and the grade of the divine dragon blood essence. Then, she rose and became the strongest disciple of this generation in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Moreover, it was said that Feng Ligei had a good temper and was amiable, unlike Emperor Qin's arrogance. Of course, she did not have much time, and there were not many people who could really communicate with her about cultivation and ask her for advice. However, she was mostly amiable. This was the difference. The limited cultivation resources could, of course, only be given to the group of people with the best talent. Many people's cultivation talents and compatibility with their blood essence were not high. It was possible that cultivating to the peak of the Dragon King was already their limit. If they wanted to continue to break through to the Dragon Emperor, they would need to consume even more cultivation resources. For the Dragon God's great world, such a thing was not worth it. Right now, it was just the appearance of the void chasm, so more cultivation resources were temporarily opened up. In the future it would be the same as before. Those who could seize this opportunity to rise would be considered lucky. If they missed this opportunity, they could only blame heaven and earth. Thank you for letting me win. Kong Shinmu undid his divine dragon form and cupped his hands in thanks to Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi. Brother Jiang's friends, if you really want to leave with Brother Jiang, then leave now. Zhu Wudi looked at Jiang Liuxue and the other two girls and said with a smile. His body was still hurting a little. Just now, Kong Shinmu's two hexing dragon explosions had injured him quite badly. Although it was not a big deal, he would still feel some pain for a short period of time. However, he had been injured by Kong Shinmu and had even suffered a defeat, so he was very grateful. Kong Shinmu had beaten him awake today. Otherwise, he would have been immersed in the state of consecutive victories, and his mentality had become a little complacent. Although he felt that he should not be arrogant, he could not control it. Chapter 46-39. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi had said it before. If Kong Shinmu could defeat the two of them, then even if others tried to stop them, they would stand by Kong Shinmu's side and help Kong Shinmu take his friends away. So now, the two of them intended to fulfill their promise. Jiang Liuxue, Shi Weiying, Shi Yutong, let's go. Kong Shinmu looked at the three girls, smiled, and then waved his hand. He did not persuade Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi. They were still in Donghuang Yonggu College, but in fact, they were not under Zhuo Xiaofeng's jurisdiction. Instead, they were under the jurisdiction of the two elite Dragon Emperor mentors, Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shouzhua. These two Dragon Emperor mentors could not compete with Zhuo Xiaofeng, but Zhuo Xiaofeng did not dare to attack them. It was equivalent to the current Donghuang Yonggu College being divided into several factions. This kind of thing naturally had nothing to do with Kong Shinmu, and Kong Shinmu would not care about it. When Kong Shinmu waved, Jiang Liuxue and the Shi sisters did not hesitate and flew to Kong Shinmu. Then they looked at the two Dragon Emperor mentors. These two were the people behind Lord Long and also belonged to Zhuo Xiaofeng's faction. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to let the students go. But now, in public, were they going to stop Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi and let them attack the genius students of Donghuang Yonggu College? That would be outrageous. The two Dragon Emperor mentors immediately pretended not to see it and did not want to care about this matter. But in the depths of their eyes, there was still a touch of coldness. It was obvious that this matter would not be settled so easily. Let's go. Under everyone's gaze, Kong Shinmu led the three girls, Qin Xiaoye, and Zhu Wudi toward the East Emperor formation. You don't have to send me off. Kong Shinmu smiled at Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi. If you two see my three friends again in the future, please take good care of them. Don't let them be bullied. Of course. Qin Xiaoye blushed as she looked at Kong Shinmu and said with a smile, although my sisters have gone to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, we'll still be able to see each other often when we reach the Longgu Fortress. At that time, we might even be able to work together. She had also guessed that since Kong Shinmu brought them to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, he wanted Xiao Yuhua to bring them along. Although Qin Xiaoye didn't know why Kong Shinmu seemed to be leaving soon, she still agreed and didn't ask any questions. After all, even without Kong Shinmu, Xiao Yuhua and the rest were definitely not weaker than Qin Xiaoye. In terms of one-on-one combat strength, Xiao Yuhua and the rest were probably stronger than Qin Xiaoye. It was just that Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi had joint attacks. In comparison, Xiao Yuhua and the rest did not have such powerful techniques. Of course, that was only the current situation. What was the biggest difference between Xiao Yuhua and the rest and ordinary students of the Dragon Martial Academy? Their talent and blood compatibility had reached around level 60. This meant that they could cultivate all the way to the Super Shenron stage without encountering any bottlenecks. Kong Shinmu had previously let the Black Dragon's consciousness observe the dragon martial artists and students of the Longgu Fortress. He discovered that most of the dragon martial artists in the Longgu continent had blood compatibility around level 50. Among them, the students that were chosen to enter the Dragon Martial Academy were mostly around level 50 to 54. In other words, they would encounter a bottleneck when cultivating to the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor. As for the Dragon King and Dragon Emperor of the Longgu continent, they were even weaker. Their talent and blood compatibility were mostly around level 40. They couldn't even reach the Dragon Emperor. However, this kind of talent was already considered above average in the Dragon Martial continent. This time, Kong Shinmu returned to the Jiang clan and took a look. It turned out that most of the Jiang clan's talent and blood compatibility were only around level 40. In other words, there weren't many who could reach the level of the Dragon King, and they would encounter a bottleneck early on. This made Kong Shinmu puzzled. His father, Kong Shinmu, was definitely very strong. If even he could obtain the Black Dragon's consciousness, what was so special about the Jiang clan? Even now, he could not figure it out. It seemed that even the Black Dragon's consciousness did not know what was going on. According to the demon god ancestor's consciousness, the Black Dragon's consciousness had always been imprisoned in the Dragon Sealing Abyss. Perhaps it was because of Kong Shinmu's father that it escaped from the Dragon Sealing Abyss and secretly hid in Kong Shinmu's body when Kong Shinmu awakened. Regardless, this matter was still a mystery. Perhaps even many of the mighty figures of the Dragon God world did not know, so Kong Shinmu did not think too much about it. At this moment, Kong Shinmu looked at the crowd and said to Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi, "The two of you, I will be heading to a place to cultivate soon. I might not be able to return for some time. Thank you for your help today. If not, I would have encountered quite a lot of obstacles if I wanted to take them away. Since that's the case, I'll tell the two of you a piece of news. Consider it your talent." Kong Shinmu had already let the Black Dragon's consciousness observe the people around him, and then tested their talent and blood compatibility. Among them, Qin Xiaoye was level 57, and Zhu Wudi was level 65. It could be seen that Qin Xiaoye would encounter a bottleneck when she reached the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor. Although it was a little difficult to reach the level of Super Shenron, it was not impossible. It depended on her personal luck. Zhu Wudi was amazing. He was stronger than Xiao Yuhua and the others, but not as good as Ran Ran, who was level 72. Qin Xiaoye, you can cultivate to the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor, and you will not encounter a bottleneck before that. Also, anyone at this level of talent will have some opportunities when they reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor and head to the Dragon God world. If you seize the opportunity, you can go to the next level. As for Zhu Wudi, you can smoothly break through to become a Super Shenron, but the process may be very difficult. Your talent and blood compatibility are extremely high. When you reach the Dragon God world, you may be focused on training, so you should be mentally prepared. These words, Kong Shinmu said to the two separately. After all, the two had different talents. If he said it directly, it might make Qin Xiaoye feel more uncomfortable. After all, her talent was still a little worse than Zhu Wudi's. The Dragon God world had a way to test the talent and blood compatibility of dragon warriors, but the resources were limited. Only the strong warriors who reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor were qualified to be tested. If they could not even reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, what was the point of testing the talent and blood compatibility? Thank you. Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi expressed their gratitude to Kong Shinmu. At the same time, they were also looking forward to it. Kong Shinmu said that if they reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, they would be selected to cultivate in the Dragon God world. Kong Shinmu was just going there in advance. Of course, the places they were going to were different. No matter what, it was their future development path. Zhu Wudi was a little excited. He did not know how Kong Shinmu knew his talent and blood compatibility, but since Kong Shinmu said it, it must be accurate. Directly become a Super Shenron. Chapter 4640. To be honest, the Divine Dragon Inheritance blood essence of a Super Shenron was an unattainable dream for most students in the Dragon Martial Academy. After all, the ultimate goal of the Dragon Martial Academy was to nurture Super Shenron subordinates for the Supreme Shenron. However, in reality, the 4 Dragon Martial Academies in the Dragon Martial continent might not produce a Super Shenron for many years. It was not only because of the lack of cultivation resources, but also because there were not many Dragon Martial artists with the talent to become a Super Shenron in the Dragon Martial continent. For example, Qin Xiaoye was already one of the top students in Donghuang Yongwu College. Not only was she famous, but she was also very strong. However, even she did not have the talent to become a Super Shenron. She could only reach the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor. It could be seen that there were not many talents that could reach the level of a Super Shenron in the 4 Dragon Martial Academies. For example, even Xiao Yuhua could not reach the level of a Super Shenron after reaching the pinnacle of the Dragon Emperor. If she wanted to break through, she would have to put in 10 times the effort of others, and it might even require a lot of cultivation resources. In comparison, the higher the talent blood essence compatibility, the less cultivation resources needed to break through the level of the divine dragon inheritance blood essence. After reaching the bottleneck, every increase in the level of the divine dragon inheritance blood essence would require 4 to 5 times the cultivation resources. One could imagine how many cultivation resources Xiao Yuhua would need to break through from the pinnacle of the Dragon Emperor to the pinnacle of a Super Shenron. It was difficult to estimate. For the upper echelons, it was a loss that outweighed the gains. Therefore, the kind of talent one possessed would determine the kind of cultivation resources one would obtain, which would also determine one's final status. The dragon martial artists of the Dragon Martial Continent, as long as they reached the 5th layer of the Dragon Emperor, they would be qualified to go to the Dragon Martial Continent for a year of training. The first thing they had to do was to test their innate talent and blood essence compatibility, which would determine their status. Kong Xinmu thought that he definitely did not have the qualifications to bring Xiao Bai to the 5 Extremes mysterious ice holy ground. After all, they had not reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. Of course, there might be exceptions. In any case, that kind of detection method was only available to the Supreme Sacred Land. As for what kind of resources were needed to detect innate talent compatibility, Kong Xinmu did not know. In any case, now that he was in the 5 Extreme Dark Ice Holy Land, he could only listen to his superiors. As for the specifics, he didn't know. He was not worried about Xiao Bai. After all, Xiao Bai had a compatibility of 62. She could reach the 2nd level of the super mystical dragon. Even in the great world of the dragon gods, this was not bad. Don't think that the Dragon God clan's great world was full of Super Shenron and Supreme Shenron. In fact, Super Shenron was only a minority. In the Dragon God clan's great world, they were also super geniuses that were 1 in 10,000. However, in the Dragon Martial Continent, this ratio was even lower. It might be 1 in 100,000, or even 1 in a million. Xiao Bai could reach 62 points of synchronization. In the great world of dragon gods, she could be considered 1 in a million. But as for Kong Xinmu, he did not know what kind of talent he had. After all, he had the black dragon consciousness in his body. It was reasonable to say that no matter what level he reached, he would not face any bottlenecks. But he did not know the principle and method of detecting innate talent blood essence compatibility. Of course, he did not know what the other party's detection would be like. All of this could only be revealed when he went up there. He glanced at the sisters, Zhang Liuxue and Shi Yueying. These 3 girls were a little embarrassed to be by Kong Xinmu's side. The Black Dragon Consciousness had already seen their talent. They were all around level 55 or 56. This was considered very good in the Dragon Martial Continent, but in the great world of the Dragon Gods, it was really nothing. They could directly reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor and become the level of the Dragon Emperor's mentor. As for what happened after that, it would depend on their luck. Don't think that they did not have a chance to get up. As long as they were willing to work hard, their future was still promising. But compared with Ran Ran, who had 72 points of synchronization, there was no way they could compare. Just like the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, his innate talent blood essence compatibility was only level 53. Before the void crack appeared, he only had the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance blood essence. But recently, he had been fighting on the battlefield and had long reached the level of the Dragon Emperor's mentor. He was even ranked in the top 100 of the Dragon Emperor list. He was the pride of the dragon warriors of the Dragon Emperor Kingdom. He was constantly making contributions to obtain demon hunting points and seized that opportunity to rise directly. He was now at the 7th level of the Dragon Emperor, and his improvement speed was no slower than that of Kong Xinmu. But how much blood and sweat did he put in? No one knew that all the dragon warriors of the Dragon Kingdom of Great Liang regarded him as a hero and idol. This was because the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang worked too hard. His talent was mediocre, but his hard work allowed him to surpass many more talented existences than him. It was because he seized the opportunity and dared to fight and fight. You don't have to send me off. We'll be leaving first. Kong Xinmu brought the 3 girls to the East Emperor Matrix and then said goodbye to Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi. A few people could be seen following them in the distance. They were Chu Yi, Su Qin, and Luo Han, who were now waving at Kong Xinmu and the others. Kong Xinmu nodded at them from afar and then left through the East Emperor Matrix with the 3 girls. He planned to teleport directly to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. In fact, it was more convenient to go to the Longgu Fortress. Unfortunately, the 3 girls were too weak now, and it was not convenient for them to go to the Longwu fortress. Therefore, they could only go to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy first. As for the East Emperor points needed to activate the teleportation, Qin Xiaoye and Zhu Wudi helped pay together. Soon, the East Emperor Matrix was activated. Kong Xinmu and the two girls entered the white light and waited for it to teleport them to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Soon, a familiar feeling came. Space travel. At this moment, Shi Weiying suddenly grabbed Kong Xinmu's arm, looking a little nervous. Kong Xinmu patted her shoulder and gestured for her not to worry. In the next moment, a white light flashed, and when they reappeared, a lush green scenery was reflected in their eyes. This scenery caused Kong Xinmu's expression to change slightly. This place was not Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Where was this? Kong Xinmu looked around and realized that it was a barren green mountain. Then, there were the roars of wild beasts and the smell of blood. What is this place? Chapter 46-41. It was a seemingly barren green forest, and the roars of beasts could be heard constantly. It seemed like this was the territory of demonic beasts. However, Kong Xinmu did not sense any powerful aura of demonic beasts in the surroundings. It was obvious that this was not an important demonic beast territory. It was just a barren land. Kong Xinmu became very vigilant. Then, he brought Zhang Liuxue, Shi Weiying, and Shi Yutong to carefully observe the surroundings. Brother Zhang, what is this place? Shi Yutong looked around curiously. When Kong Xinmu said that he would bring them to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, they naturally believed him. After all, Kong Xinmu had never lied to them. I don't know either. There seems to be something wrong with the East Imperial formation. Kong Xinmu's expression was somewhat solemn. He was constantly on guard against possible ambushes in the surroundings. However, after waiting for a long time, there was no aura in the surroundings. Zhang Liuxue, Shi Weiying, and Shi Yutong all had the inherited blood essence of the divine dragon. They were only one step away from the Dragon King. Originally, they were still quite far away. However, after coming to Donghuang Yonggu College, they had obtained a lot of cultivation resources. Hence, they were only one step away. To Kong Xinmu, it was no longer too difficult to raise their inherited blood essence to the Dragon King level. Suddenly, Kong Xinmu thought of something. There was a limit to the compatibility of these dragon martial artists with their blood essence. However, what would happen if they encountered a bottleneck and Kong Xinmu transferred the energy of the dragon mark to them? Would it be the same as them absorbing the cultivation resources of the dragon mark and consuming 4 to 5 times the amount to break through? Or would it be the same as when there were no bottlenecks? As long as Kong Xinmu transferred the energy of the dragon mark to them, they would be able to break through directly? This was a very important matter. One had to know that the people around Kong Xinmu all had different cultivation talents. Their talents and blood essence compatibility were also different. Right now, none of them had reached their limits and encountered a bottleneck. However, once they encountered a bottleneck, the gap between Kong Xinmu and them would rapidly widen. At that time, it was highly possible that when they were still at the 4th or 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, Kong Xinmu would already be a super divine dragon, reaching the level of Zhuo Xiaofeng and Yu Yaji. It was even possible that when Kong Xinmu reached the level of a supreme divine dragon, his friends would still be at the level of the Dragon Emperor. That was very unbearable. One had to know that Zhang Shenwu had never been a fickle person. He did not wish for his friends to drift further and further away from him because he was very clear about the power of unity. It was difficult for Kong Xinmu to improve so much on the battlefield of the 9 races. After all, his attack ability was not strong. On the battlefield of the 9 races, he relied on the power of the black hidden dragonstone to hide and launch sneak attacks. Most of the time, it was Xiao Yuhua and the others who attacked. As long as they attacked together, as long as the opponent was not too strong, they would basically be killed instantly. Kong Xinmu didn't even need to lift a finger to kill them. In fact, even if Kong Xinmu wanted to attack, it would be useless. Previously, he hadn't cultivated the 9th level of the Roaring Dragon Explosion, so his instantaneous lethality was really not comparable to Xiao Yuhua and the others. Even if Kong Xinmu cultivated the 9th level of the Roaring Dragon Explosion to the 2nd level, his explosive power was about the same as Xiao Yuhua and the others. If he wanted to surpass them, he had to cultivate the 9th level of the Roaring Dragon Explosion to a higher level. And that would require time. The key was that what Kong Shinmu lacked now was time. It was a rare opportunity. Whether it was the invasion of the void beasts or the battlefield of the 9 races, the time that the students of the Dragon Martial Academy had was limited. If Kong Shinmu wanted to cultivate the dragon attack technique, he might not even have the chance to do so now. Therefore, friends were very important to Kong Shinmu. If he didn't have the help of his friends this time, he wouldn't have been able to improve so much. Of course, it was still unknown whether the energy of the fairy dragon mark could help them break through their bottlenecks. Therefore, there was no need to think too much about it now. He could only wait for one of his friends to break through their bottlenecks before Kong Shinmu could try it. Now, he stayed in this barren green mountain with the 3 girls and didn't run around. This was because Kong Shinmu didn't know where he was. Even with the instant magic ring, he didn't know which direction he should go to reach Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. In order to prevent danger from coming, he brought the 3 girls and descended into the dense forest below. In this barren green mountain, there was a dense forest with uneven terrain. It was rather complicated. They hid in the forest and didn't sense the presence of any powerful demonic beasts in the surroundings. Although this area was dense with vegetation, it seemed to lack vitality. Kong Shinmu discovered that the green forest was a type of tree. It was a tree with a very tenacious life force. It was called the 10,000 wood. It was said that this kind of tree could survive in extreme environments and could even live up to 10,000 years. However, the 10,000 wood couldn't grow tall or big. Even if it lived for thousands or tens of thousands of years, it would still be a small tree. Now, Kong Shinmu and the others were hiding in a patch of 10,000 wood. Each of the 10,000 wood was only about 10 zhang tall. If they transformed into dragon martial artists, it would be impossible for them to hide in the trees. This piece of land seems to be scorched. Kong Shinmu soon discovered that the leaves under his feet were black and red scorched land. It was as if a terrifying war had erupted in this area, or a large-scale fire had occurred. A supreme-level expert has died in this place. At this moment, the consciousness of the demonic god ancestor was transmitted to Kong Shinmu's mind. He looked solemn. This scorched land was left behind by a supreme-level expert with the fire attribute. Therefore, many plants can't survive here. Only the 10,000 wood can. Moreover, the demonic beasts that live here feed on the 10,000 wood. The leaves and roots of the 10,000 wood are all very tenacious. Many demonic beasts can't eat them, so there are only a few of them. As such, there won't be any strong demonic beasts in this forest. Only the demonic beasts that feed on the 10,000 wood will reproduce in large numbers in an environment where there are no natural enemies. Kong Shinmu didn't expect this scorched land of the 10,000 wood to be left behind after the death of a supreme-level expert with the fire attribute. This meant that there was a high chance that the corpse of an unparalleled powerhouse was buried under this place. As for what race it was, no one knew. In short, the death of a supreme-level expert was a big deal. It should be known that the Dragon God world was facing a great crisis because of the death of 2 supreme-level dragon martial artists. This was the cause of the entire crisis. Therefore, the corpse of a supreme-level expert was extremely rare. For Kong Shinmu, he wanted to look for it, but the most important question now was why was he teleported to the scorched land of the 10,000 wood through the East Emperor Formation? Soon, he heard the sound of the wind whistling over his head, followed by the pressure of a dragon martial artist descending from above. Chapter 46-42. They were 2 dragon warriors. To be precise, they were 2 dragon emperor mentors. They were the 2 dragon emperor mentors who had been behind Lord Long and had been preventing Kong Shinmu from taking the 3 girls away. They were both middle-aged men and had inherited the blood essence of the divine dragon from the 6th level of the dragon emperor. At this moment, one of them had transformed into a fire dragon and the other into an ice dragon. They appeared in the sky above the scorched wood forest and seemed to be patrolling around, searching for something. Obviously, they were looking for someone, and they were looking for Kong Shinmu and the 3 girls. Why were they looking for Kong Shinmu? It was obvious that they wanted to kill Kong Shinmu. Zhua Xiaofeng could not do such a thing himself, but he could not sit back and watch any more dragon warriors leave Donghuang Yonggu College and join Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. What should they do with Kong Shinmu just now? Let Kong Shinmu take them away first, and then kill all 4 of them secretly. This was the best way to deal with it. Anyway, the East Emperor Formation was controlled by Zhua Xiaofeng, so he could decide where he wanted to send people. That was why Kong Shinmu had brought the three girls to this scorched wood forest. This place was the site of the ruins of the primordial era, and the things in the ruins had long been dug out, so no one had come to this place in the past hundreds of years. In this forest, besides the 10,000-year wood forest, there were only some small monsters that fed on 10,000-year wood. Even dragon warriors who wanted to train would not come to this place. Therefore, this place was the most sparsely populated, and it was very secretive. In fact, if Kong Shinmu wanted to run away, he would have done so with the instant magic ring. The key was that Kong Shinmu did not know where this place was. Without a sense of direction, he did not dare to run around with the instant magic ring. What if he ran into a dangerous place? That was why he did not take action for the time being. Unexpectedly, he saw the two Dragon Emperor mentors gliding across the sky, as if they were searching for the four of them. They wanted to kill them. Kong Shinmu's eyes flickered sharply. He knew that the other party still did not know where he was, so next, should he launch a sneak attack? You guys stay here. I'll go out and deal with them. Kong Shinmu said to the three women. If the three women were to be with him, it would definitely give him a headache. After all, he would have to split his attention to protect the three women. If he was alone, he would have nothing to fear. In fact, with his current strength, he was not afraid of the two Dragon Emperor mentors in front of him at all in this incomparably hidden place. Even if they were powerhouses on the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor, Kong Shinmu was already on the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor. Moreover, there was a gap between Kong Shinmu and the other party in terms of cultivation level. The other party was a powerful existence on the 9th level of the Samsara realm. But for Kong Shinmu, this gap could be made up for with his devouring power. Secondly, he could make up for it with all the dragon weapons, demonic weapons, and phantom weapons he had on him. Thirdly, he had once condensed Nirvana power when he was in the Nirvana realm, so his devouring power was several levels stronger than that of ordinary dragon martial artists. Therefore, for Kong Shinmu, these two opponents on the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor realm were not invincible. Of course, it was still rather difficult for him to defeat both of them at the same time. Therefore, Kong Shinmu had to first separate them. How to separate them? It was very difficult. After all, it was not like when he had met the man and woman on the battlefield of the Xueqi tribe. They had separated on their own, giving Kong Shinmu and the others a chance. Now these two Dragon Emperor mentors were here to find someone, and that person was him, Kong Shinmu. It was not easy to separate them. Let's go to the underground relic. I feel that there are some good things in the underground relic. At this moment, the demon god ancestor said to Kong Shinmu anxiously, "That thing should be very useful to you. Old black dragon, don't you think so? Let's go to the underground relic. Isn't it just a supreme fallen relic? With me and the old black dragon's guidance, you won't be in any danger." "Then can I bring the three of them along?" Kong Shinmu asked. "Of course you can. Let's go, let's go. Let's go in the direction of the mountain behind you. You can use that instant dragon martial technique of yours and teleport 15 kilometers away. Those two Dragon Emperor mentors shouldn't be able to catch up to you. Even if they catch up, they will only die if they follow you into the relic. Hee. It's impossible to activate the power of inheritance in the Supreme Relic. This fallen Supreme Powerhouse was pretty good to leave behind such a sealed inheritance relic. In the words of the Dragon Martial Continent, in this Supreme Relic, dragon martial artists could not transform into dragons and could only use their own strength. In that case, they could only use about 30% of their full strength. However, in the entire world, this was not just a restriction that prevented dragon martial artists from transforming into dragons. In this Supreme Relic, apart from dragon martial artists who could not transform into dragons, there were also powerhouses of other races who could not activate their own inheritance. For example, cultivators of the Xueqi tribe could not condense the water god shadow, and cultivators of the void human tribe could not condense the void god totem. All the power of inheritance was the same. They were sealed in the Supreme Relic and could not be activated. There are many such relics in the Chaos battlefield, and they are even more mysterious and dangerous. Let's explore this Supreme Relic today. In the future, when you go to the relic of the Chaos battlefield, you will be mentally prepared. As for those two Dragon Emperor mentors, they will simply be courting death if they follow us," said the demon god ancestor. To him, the two Dragon Emperors were just like ants. If it wasn't for the fact that Jiang Shenwu wasn't strong enough to defeat the two of them, he wouldn't have cared about them at all. Now he had arranged for them to die, which was really letting them off easy. To be able to die under the arrangement of my demon god ancestor, it is the honor of the two Dragon Emperor mentors. Alright, in that case, let's go to the Supreme Relic. Kong Shinmu nodded. When the two Dragon Emperor mentors flew over his head, Kong Shinmu suddenly transformed into a black dragon and flew out of the vast 10,000-year-old forest. He let the three women grab his black dragon scales on his back, and then before the Dragon Emperor mentors in the distance could react, he used the wind shadow flowing cloud flash. The distance of 15 miles was covered in the blink of an eye. Kong Shinmu brought the three women in his black dragon body and directly shuttled away. That kid ran away. Chase after him. This kid is really treacherous. Fortunately, we have the tracking needles given by the dean. The two Dragon Emperor mentors could confirm that Kong Shinmu and the others were hiding in this 10,000-year-old forest. They originally planned to wander around, but they did not expect Kong Shinmu to appear and fly away. At that moment, the tracking needles in their hands aimed at Kong Shinmu's position and directly pierced into his divine dragon body. This tracking needle came from Xueqi. Kong Shinmu naturally could not remove it now, but Kong Shinmu was not worried about this. If he had the ability to chase after him, why not come to the Supreme Relic? Chapter 46-43. Kong Shinmu directly used the wind shadow flowing cloud flash with the three women, traversing a distance of more than 10 kilometers and arriving at the entrance of the Supreme Remnant. The entire 10,000-year wood forest, spanning several thousand kilometers, was the place where the Supreme Expert had perished. The land was scorched, and there were almost no living creatures living here. The entrance to the Supreme Remnant was a huge sinkhole, the scorched earth sinkhole. There wasn't even a single 10,000-year wood forest in the sinkhole, and the surroundings were filled with dense spiritual energy. However, this spiritual energy contained very dense fire poison. If one were to absorb this spiritual energy, they would be poisoned by fire poison left behind by a Supreme Expert. If one didn't have enough strength, they would most likely die. Previously, when the Martial Dragon Continent's martial artists had come to explore the scorched earth sinkhole, they had all held their breath, not daring to absorb the fire-poison spiritual energy. But Kong Shinmu didn't need to do so. The Black Dragon's consciousness told him that as long as he used his devouring power, not only would he be able to avoid the fire-poison spiritual energy's corrosion, but he could also absorb it for his own use, strengthening his resistance to the fire-poison spiritual energy. This was undoubtedly good news for Kong Shinmu. If it was in the outside world, he wouldn't be able to deal with the two Dragon Emperor instructors at the same time. But in the scorched earth sinkhole, he could use the favorable terrain to defeat them. Because in the scorched earth sinkhole, under the cover of such dense fire-poison spiritual energy, they didn't dare to fight with their full strength. If they used their full strength and accidentally absorbed the fire-poison spiritual energy, it would be extremely harmful to their bodies. But not only was Kong Shinmu unafraid of the fire-poison spiritual energy, he could even devour it and use it as his own sharp weapon. The only ones who were suffering were Jiang Liuxue and the other two women. They couldn't even hold their breath. In this scorched earth sinkhole, it was very easy for them to suddenly die. This was because their cultivation level and the essence blood of the divine dragon inheritance were too low. The fire-poison spirit chi could completely penetrate their bodies, and then directly corrode into their bodies, injuring them. If they were just passing by, Kong Shinmu could help them resist the fiery poisonous spiritual energy around them. But if they were to fight, Kong Shinmu wouldn't be able to look after them. So, Kong Shinmu directly passed through the fiery poisonous sinkhole and arrived at the center of the sinkhole, where there was a cave entrance. This cave entrance was the entrance to the Supreme Ruins. Unparalleled ruins, they were called ruins, but in reality, there were no buildings inside. This was just a place where a Supreme Expert fell, and there was great power hidden within. If one were to enter the underground from that hole, they would see the bones of many dragon warriors. As for the skeleton of the Supreme Warrior, no one had seen it before. Even the Super Dragon Warriors had come to explore, but unfortunately, they could not pass the final checkpoint and step into the innermost part. So now, the demon god ancestor directly told Kong Shinmu that if he could obtain the corpse of that Supreme Expert, it would be very helpful to him. Judging from the aura, this fallen Supreme Master is most likely from the Demon God clan. The Demon God ancestor sighed. This fiery poisonous spiritual energy is more like an old friend of mine, the myriad ghost fire demon god. So this supreme expert should have cultivated the demon god's bloodline of the myriad ghost fire demon god. The one who had fallen here was not the myriad ghost fire demon god himself, but someone who had obtained the myriad ghost fire demon god's bloodline, so they had the same nature of power. Who would have thought that the one who had fallen here was actually from the demon god race? Kong Shinmu shook his head and didn't think too much about it. He transformed into a dragon and flew, using his devouring power to protect the three girls, and then brought them to the entrance of the ruins. There was a layer of protective barrier at the entrance of the cave, isolating the fiery poisonous spiritual energy from the outside and preventing it from entering the cave. This was the preparation made when they explored the unparalleled ruins before. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to move at all underground. After blocking the fiery poisonous spiritual energy, they could step into the cave to search for the treasures left in the ruins. Unfortunately, no one had ever succeeded. Anything that could be taken away from the periphery of the ruins had, of course, been taken away. But where was the most precious place in this place where the supreme expert had fallen? Naturally, it was where the corpse of the supreme expert was. No one knew what precious things the supreme expert had brought with him. Unfortunately, no one had been able to find the corpse of the supreme expert and obtain those treasures. This time, Kong Shinmu's goal was those treasures. The treasures of the supreme expert from the demon god race. It was unknown how many years ago this expert had died here, but at that time, the Dragon Martial Continent was probably not the territory of the dragon god race. The ownership of these small worlds was always changing, and it all depended on which race was stronger. The corpse of the supreme expert of the demon god race was extremely tempting to Kong Shinmu. After all, he had also cultivated the inheritance of the demon god race and possessed the inheritance blood essence of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. As long as he was willing, the blood essence in his body could be directly transformed from the inheritance blood essence of the dragon god race into the inheritance blood essence of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. This was because he had the consciousness of the black dragon and the ancestor of the demon god race in his body. Their inheritance blood essence could be transformed at will in Kong Shinmu's body. Of course, like the auxiliary inheritance he cultivated, the inheritance of the power of the void, the power of the inheritance could not be transformed at will. Instead, it was stored in a special devouring space. This space was condensed by endless devouring power, and the auxiliary inheritance power he cultivated was all in the devouring space. That was why it was twice as difficult for him to cultivate the auxiliary inheritance compared to others. Moreover, if he wanted to cultivate the next auxiliary inheritance, he would have to open another devouring space. This way it would be even more difficult for him to cultivate, because the power of the inheritance had to be transformed before he could use and cultivate it. Back to business. Kong Shinmu brought the three women to the entrance of the supreme ruins and placed them inside. Then, he planned to return and deal with the two Dragon Emperor mentors who had caught up. The entrance of the cave was extremely wide. Even the 10,000-foot-long body of the Dragon Emperor could fly in 3 or 4 abreast. Therefore, the three women were like ants at the entrance of the cave. They stood on the ground, separated by the protective barrier that shielded them from the fire-poison spirit chi, and watched as Kong Shinmu turned and left. They did not say much, knowing that Kong Shinmu was about to go and deal with strong enemies. The two Dragon Emperor mentors. Those were Dragon Emperor mentors. Could Kong Shinmu really defeat them? The difficulty was too great. But ever since Kong Shinmu had been in the Jiang clan, he had constantly created miracles, repeatedly defeating opponents that he could not defeat. Jiang Liuxue and the other two girls stood at the entrance of the cave, gazing out into the distance. The spreading fire-poison spiritual energy quickly submerged Jiang Shinwu's black dragon body. Not long after, the furious roar of a divine dragon rang out from within the scorched earth. Kong Shinmu, you can do it! Chapter 46-44. Kong Shinmu flew into the scorched earth sinkhole and was once again enveloped by the fire-poison spiritual chi. His devouring power constantly devoured the surrounding fire-poison spiritual chi, and when it reached his body, it was all for his use. The fire-poison spiritual chi was stored in his devouring space. The devouring space in his body was a special space opened up by his devouring power, but it could not store other items and could only store power. All the power he devoured was temporarily stored in the devouring space. Back and forth, Kong Shinmu had already devoured a lot of fire-poison spiritual chi, but compared to the fire-poison spiritual chi in the entire scorched earth sinkhole, it was just a drop in the bucket. His black dragon body flew continuously in the scorched earth sinkhole's fire-poisoned spiritual chi, and very soon, he sensed two powerful existences appearing above the sinkhole. "They're here!" Kong Shinmu immediately roared angrily. He did not avoid the other party at all, and wanted to provoke a battle, to lure them down to kill him. He knew that the other party's goal was to kill him, so how could they resist the temptation now that he was in the scorched earth sinkhole? Although the other party's battle strength would be limited by the fire-poisoned spiritual chi coming down to the scorched earth sinkhole, the two Dragon Emperor mentors believed that Kong Shinmu's strength would definitely be limited in the scorched earth sinkhole. Moreover, Kong Shinmu still had to take care of the three girls, and they felt that Kong Shinmu did not even know the danger of the fire-poisoned spiritual chi. After all, Kong Shinmu had definitely never seen such a place in his life, nor had he heard of a scorched earth sinkhole filled with fire-poisoned spiritual chi. But what they did not know was that Kong Shinmu's sea of consciousness contained the demon god ancestor and the black dragon's consciousness. Now, the black dragon's consciousness was willing to communicate with them. Although it was not much, it was still much more frequent than before. The main thing was that the demon god ancestor would tell Kong Shinmu everything no matter what situation he encountered. Was there anything in this world that the demon god ancestor did not know? There was, but there was too little. Therefore, the moment Kong Shinmu arrived at the fire-poisoned sinkhole, he already knew its characteristics. Now that Kong Shinmu roared, it also announced that he was in the fire-poisoned sinkhole, and pretended to be in pain, as if he was being corroded by the fire poison. This made the two Dragon Emperor mentors overjoyed, and they directly dove into the fiery spiritual chi of the scorched earth sinkhole. This fire-poisoned spiritual energy was like a sea of flames. Although it was not a real flame, nor was it a real sea, the rising and falling fire-red spiritual energy mist still gave off a feeling of turbulent waves. The two Dragon Emperor mentors rushed into the sea of fire-poisonous spiritual energy. They immediately held their breaths and focused, releasing all their defensive powers to defend their surroundings. 9th Stage Extreme Dao Dragon Explosion. Two dark dragon breaths exploded in front of them. This caught the two Dragon Emperor mentors off guard, but when they flew into the sea of flames, they were already prepared to defend. At this time, they just roared casually, and a defensive power erupted, blocking Kong Shinmu's two dark dragon breaths. These two dark dragon breaths were not able to hurt the two Dragon Emperor mentors, but the surrounding fire-poisoned spiritual energy was dispersed by these two dark dragon breaths, and suddenly a vast area was cleared. The two Dragon Emperor mentors looked forward, but they did not see Kong Shinmu's black dragon body. The entire fire-poisoned spiritual energy seemed to have quietened down, and Kong Shinmu seemed to have disappeared. That kid couldn't have barged into the Supreme Ruins, right? Let's chase after him. Only the entrance of the Supreme Ruins did not have fire-poisoned spiritual energy, so they felt that Kong Shinmu was very likely to have barged into the entrance of the Supreme Ruins. That was the only way that kid could survive. But just as they flew a little distance towards the entrance of the Supreme Ruins, two more dark dragon breaths suddenly erupted from their sides. In the dense smoke of the fire-poisoned spiritual energy, their vision was restricted, and they could not see where Kong Shinmu was at all. But their perception was still relatively sharp, and they felt that Kong Shinmu's attack had just erupted. It was basically impossible for him to launch a sneak attack on them, so they opened up their defensive barrier again and blocked the two dark dragon breaths. But they wanted to follow the clues to find Kong Shinmu's location, but they could not do it at all. This was because Kong Shinmu was completely hidden in this dense fire smoke. With the Nightmare Ink Beast's concealment ability, his aura was completely restrained, and there was not a single flaw released. The faces of the two Dragon Emperor mentors immediately sank. They did not need to breathe, but surrounded by the fire-poisoned spiritual energy, their strength was constantly being consumed, causing their strength to constantly weaken. Although the rate of weakening was very slow, once this kind of weakening accumulated, it still made them somewhat worried. Kong Shinmu also knew that he could not give them too much of a chance to relax. After all, once the two of them were free, they would definitely head towards the entrance of the Supreme Ruins, and the three women were still there. Once they ran over, it would definitely not be a good thing for Kong Shinmu. So immediately after, he continuously used the 9th Stage Extreme Dao Dragon Burst, constantly attacking the two mentors. Moreover, the direction of each attack was different. He used the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash to change his position, making it difficult for the other party to grasp his position each time. The constant sneak attacks continuously consumed the energy in the other party's body. The other party wanted to directly find Kong Shinmu's position and directly kill Kong Shinmu. However, every time they wanted to rush to the place where Kong Shinmu's attack aura was condensed, they found that Kong Shinmu had already left that place, and there was the power of space around him. Clearly, Kong Shinmu had used that space-traveling dragon martial technique to escape in advance. This made them unable to believe it. This fellow actually has such a high level of comprehension of the power of space? This kind of space-traveling dragon martial technique can actually be used consecutively. This fellow's talent is too heaven-defying. That's Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy's Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash. I'm afraid he has already cultivated it to the peak of the heaven stage. For others to cultivate this technique to the peak of the heaven stage, they would at least need to be at the 7th or 8th stage of the Dragon Emperor. This fellow is only at the 3rd stage of the Dragon Emperor. We actually can't take him down. This is too embarrassing. The faces of the two Dragon Emperor mentors turned somewhat unsightly. Unfortunately, what they did not know was that Kong Shinmu's Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash had not been cultivated to the peak of the heaven stage, but had only reached the dragon stage. Of course, because Kong Shinmu had devoured the comprehension of the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash, his Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash was much more powerful than the others. Chapter 46-45. Originally, Kong Shinmu's Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash had been stuck at the Dragon Realm for some time. But now, he was constantly using this move in a nervous state. Coupled with the fact that he had already absorbed the insights from the Extreme Saint stage Sun Shadow Flowing Sunglow, his Sun Shadow Flowing Sunglow was finally showing signs of improvement. Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash. Breakthrough. Peak Heaven Realm. Now, I can use the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash several times in every breath, and I can control the void at will. This feeling is really amazing. Kong Shinmu was somewhat amazed. Originally, he could only use the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash once in every breath, but now, as long as he wanted to, he could use it several times in every breath. It was worth mentioning that although the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash was a dragon martial skill that could shuttle through the void, although it was very useful in battle, it consumed a lot of energy. However, Kong Shinmu had the power of devouring, so would he be afraid of energy consumption? He could casually devour some of the surrounding energy to make up for his energy consumption. Whether it was the defensive power of the two Dragon Emperor mentors, or the dense fire poisonous spiritual chi in the surroundings, Kong Shinmu could devour them all, transforming them into the purest innate energy, and then he could continue to use the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash. Originally, if these two Dragon Emperor mentors cooperated well, and could find Kong Shinmu's position, there might be a way to intercept Kong Shinmu, and directly defeat Kong Shinmu. But now it was impossible. If Kong Shinmu wanted to escape, he could escape immediately, and he could even appear in several places at the same time. This was the charm of the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash. Of course, just the Peak Heaven Realm Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash alone could not reach this level. The most important thing was that Kong Shinmu had devoured the Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash's comprehension from the Extreme Saint realm. These insights allowed Kong Shinmu's Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash to directly advance towards the Extreme Saint realm after reaching the Peak Heaven realm. He didn't even need the Rising Dragon Marrow, because he had already comprehended enough. Linghu Dai-er's comprehension of the Zun Shadowy Flowing Sunset Flash was not something that just anyone could obtain. Other than Kong Shinmu's devouring power, even if Linghu Dai-er wanted to tell others about her comprehension, they would not be able to accept it. Only the devouring power could do that. Now that I've reached the pinnacle of the Heaven Realm, my Wind Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash has begun to advance towards the Saint Realm, or even the Extreme Saint Realm. Amazing! Kong Shinmu could not help but sigh at the power of the devouring power. As he thought of this, he could not help but have an idea. Recently, he had devoured quite a lot of power, especially from Susan Luo of the Void Human Tribe. That fellow's Black Hole of Nothingness and Void God's Judgment were both extremely powerful Holy Void martial skills. Recently, Kong Shinmu had been studying the inheritance of the Void Force. He had a better understanding of the two Holy Void techniques and could even use them now. Of course, his Void inheritance had only reached King level 8. If he were to use these two Holy Void skills, it would not be that powerful. Unless his Void inheritance could reach Royal level, it would not be that powerful. It was equivalent to the Dragon King's level 8 Void Force inheritance. If he were to use the most powerful Holy Void technique in combination with the most powerful spectral weapon, it would still be possible to deal with an ordinary opponent, such as Lord Long. However, it would not be so easy to deal with these two Dragon Emperor mentors. However, Kong Shinmu was not in a hurry. He just wanted to use this opportunity to try it out. Immediately after, he did what he thought of. After all, these two Dragon Emperor mentors would not be able to leave alive. He could test out the explosive power of his Void Force inheritance. Void God Totem Condense. Kong Shinmu immediately removed his divine dragon form in this fiery poisonous spiritual energy. Then, a cylindrical Void God Totem image condensed behind him. This Void God Totem image enveloped his body. It was the Void Human Tribe's inheritance. Kong Shinmu's Void God Totem was the same inheritance as Su Senluo. After all, Kong Shinmu had first devoured Su Senluo's Void Force inheritance. Therefore it was the same inheritance as them. This Void God Totem was called Clear Sky Virtual Luo. It was the name of a legendary Void God. This Clear Sky Virtual Luo was of an extremely high grade. It was equivalent to the Demon God Tribe's 16-winged Heavenly Demon God's inheritance. As for Clear Sky Virtual Luo himself, the Demon God ancestor said that he had seen him before. However, he did not know much about him. After all, there were countless experts in this world. The Demon God ancestor knew that the Clear Sky Virtual Luo's inheritance was considered one of the top inheritances among the Void Human Tribe. When the Clear Sky Virtual Luo totem appeared on Kong Shinmu's body and enveloped him, the surrounding fiery poisonous spiritual energy retreated. It could be understood that this Clear Sky Virtual Luo totem was like Kong Shinmu's divine dragon form. It looked like an image, but in reality, it was an extremely condensed void force. The ethereal energy dispersed the fiery poison spiritual energy. Waves of void force rippled outwards. As the fiery poisonous spiritual energy retreated, an empty domain appeared around Kong Shinmu. At this moment, the two Dragon Emperor mentors seemed to have seen the totem image of Haotian Virtual Luo through their own defensive barrier and the indistinct fiery poisonous spiritual qi. They were instantly shocked and confused. What was going on? Did they sense the aura of the Void Human Tribe? How was that possible? This was the Dragon Martial Continent. Could it be that the Dragon Martial Continent had been invaded by the Void Human Tribe? Before they could react, Kong Shinmu's attack was like a torrential downpour. Heavenly Illusionary Disc. Void God's Judgment. A wave of spatial distortion instantly condensed at Jiang Shenwu's location before explosively spreading out in all directions. The Heavenly Illusionary Disc was a top-notch heaven-level void weapon. The void force on it continued to revolve, emitting an extremely strong void force wave that enhanced Kong Shinmu's body. This increased the power of Kong Shinmu's Holy Void technique by at least 3 times. This was despite the fact that Kong Shinmu was not compatible with the Heavenly Illusionary Disc. If they were compatible, it would not be a problem for him to unleash 5 or 6 times the power. With the support of the Heavenly Oasis Disc, Jiang Shenwu's judgment of the Void God erupted with unparalleled power. Waves of fiery poisonous spiritual energy were repelled by the distorting power of the Void God's judgment of the Void God, scattering into the surroundings. The distorted space extended towards the two Dragon Emperor instructors and instantly enveloped them, including their defensive barrier. Bang! The defensive barrier condensed by the two Dragon Emperor instructors could not withstand the spatial distortion and started to distort as well. Then, their divine dragon bodies started to distort along with the spatial distortion. If they could not withstand this power, their divine dragon bodies would completely collapse in the spatial distortion. However, the grade of Kong Shinmu's void force inheritance was still too low. Chapter 46-46. Although the two Dragon Emperor mentors from Donghuang Yonggu College had reached the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance, their comprehension of the power of space was very shallow. This was because the power of the void was the most difficult power to comprehend in the world. Of course, this was the case with the power of time. The power of time was not something that people at their level could come into contact with. Hence, the power of the void was the most difficult power to grasp. Everyone had some understanding of this power, but how much they could comprehend depended on how much hard work they put into it. It also depended on how talented they were in the comprehension of the power of the void. Kong Shinmu relied on the power of devouring. Even though he did not have much talent, he could still grasp a certain level of the power of the void many times faster than others. Now, the judgment of the void god had reached a relatively high level. Of course, if the judgment of the void god had been personally executed by Su Luo, these two dragon emperor mentors would not have been able to resist it at all. However, the judgment of the void god that Kong Shinmu had executed now was a far cry from Su Luo's. Although its power was frightening, it was not enough to kill the two dragon emperor mentors in an instant. At this moment, the judgment of the void god burst out with a distorted space, completely enveloping the two dragon emperor mentors. Then, they each executed their strongest defensive and offensive techniques, directly exploding outwards. The two dragon emperor mentors were a little shocked. Through the distorted space, they could see the entire distorted totem of Su Luo's void god appearing in front of them. The body that was enveloped by the void god totem was impressively Kong Shinmu's body. Kong Shinmu cultivated the power of the void? How was this possible? How could one person cultivate two different inherited powers? Moreover, Kong Shinmu's cultivation of the power of the void was an act of betrayal to the dragon gods. If this was exposed, even the supreme divine dragon would sentence him to death. This situation shocked the two dragon emperor mentors. Kong Shinmu's secret had been exposed and discovered by them. Didn't that mean that Kong Shinmu had no intention of letting them leave alive? After they realized this, all kinds of powerful forces burst out and rushed out. After unleashing 3 or 4 attacks and defensive dragon martial techniques, the two of them finally tore apart the distorted space created by the void god's judgment. Their entire divine dragon body jumped out from the distorted space. They felt as if their divine dragon bodies were being twisted and torn apart, making them feel as if the world was surreal. Even now, when they looked at the normal world, it seemed a little distorted. Kong Shinmu die. The two of them exchanged glances and immediately launched their attacks at Kong Shinmu. The two of them had extremely powerful dragon martial techniques. They had cultivated high-level dragon martial techniques and had reached the saint level. The power they unleashed was much stronger than that of Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai. Even the all-out attack of Xiao Yuhua and the other three could not compare to the power of one of the two. But now, these two did not really want to kill Kong Shinmu. They could feel Kong Shinmu's killing intent. Therefore, they only needed to escape from this place. As long as they could leave this place alive and spread the news that Kong Shinmu cultivated the power of the void, Kong Shinmu would definitely die. Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Arts Academy's principal Yu Yaji, and even the Supreme Emperor Shi Divine Dragon could not protect Kong Shinmu. Therefore they only wanted to escape for their lives, lest they were killed by Jiang Shenwu's crafty schemes. Therefore, their attacks against Jiang Shenwu were just a smokescreen. Although they looked powerful, their destructive power was actually not too strong. After they unleashed 2 attacks, Kong Shinmu raised his hand to activate the Heavenly Oasis Heavenly Disk and unleashed the Black Hole of Nothingness. The power of the Black Hole of Nothingness condensed into a black sphere and swallowed all the attacks. Then, it buried it in the endless void crack. The Black Hole of Nothingness opened a small void crack and could swallow all attacks. It was a defensive wholly illusionary skill, but at the same time it could also be used for attacks. If it was cultivated to a higher level, the Black Hole of Nothingness could even swallow the opponent directly, unlike now, which could only swallow the opponent's attack power. The Black Hole of Nothingness condensed and swallowed the attacks of the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors. Then, Kong Shinmu laughed coldly when he saw the 2 of them turning around to escape. The 2 of them had fallen into his trap. Under normal circumstances, it would be rather difficult for Kong Shinmu to kill them. Although their power was constantly being consumed in the poisonous fire spiritual influence, it was not easy to exhaust the power in their bodies. Moreover, when they felt that their power had been exhausted, they could choose to escape. At that time, even if Kong Shinmu chased after them, he might not be able to defeat the 2 of them. However, now that they had seen Kong Shinmu's inheritance of virtual power and the empty god totem that Kong Shinmu had condensed, they naturally knew the crimes that Kong Shinmu had committed. To the dragon gods, cultivating other inheritances was naturally a big crime. Once discovered, they would definitely be killed. How could they miss such an opportunity? The 2 Dragon Emperor mentors were very cautious in their actions. After seeing Kong Shinmu's secret, they did not intend to continue staying in the scorched sinkhole that was full of poisonous fire spiritual influence to fight against Kong Shinmu. There was no need for them to do so. What if Kong Shinmu had some tricks up his sleeves to kill them? In reality, Kong Shinmu did not have any tricks up his sleeves. On the contrary, their speculations about Kong Shinmu made them a little flustered. They had always thought that Kong Shinmu had a way to kill them, so they were in a hurry to escape. And this was right into Kong Shinmu's trap. It was precisely because the other party was so flustered that Kong Shinmu had the opportunity to take advantage of it. Sky Imprisoning Demon Pearl. Void-Tearing Void Demon Blade. Kong Shinmu directly unleashed these two top-notch Desolate God demonic weapons from the Demon God tribe. At this moment, the bloodline in his body had directly changed to the bloodline of the Demon God tribe. He had already cultivated the bloodline of the 16-winged heavenly demon god to the 9th tier of the king stage. Most importantly, there was the aura of the demon god ancestor in it. This was Kong Shinmu's real trump card. The sky-imprisoning demon pearls suddenly appeared. Those black pearls formed a sphere that enveloped one of the Dragon Emperor mentors and imprisoned him. On the other hand, the void-ripping void magic blade condensed the bloodline and aura of the demon god ancestor, unleashing an incomparably terrifying power. In the next moment, countless blades made of demonic aura blasted out, raining down on the other Dragon Emperor mentor like a black rainstorm. Such an attack, if the opponent was in a direct confrontation, would definitely be able to withstand it. Chapter 46-47. The Void-Rending Void Devil Blade was a top-notch Rage God demonic weapon that came with a top-notch Rage God demonic skill. Otherwise, it wouldn't be Xueqi's protective demonic weapon. Now that the aura and bloodline of the demon god ancestor were unleashed, together with Kong Shinmu's cultivation of the 3rd tier of the rebirth realm, he had the power to kill the two Dragon Emperor mentors in front of him. It should be known that the defensive techniques of these two Dragon Emperor mentors were only at the advanced Wang Laoji level. Compared to the top-notch origami demonic skill of the void-ripping void magic blade, they were a whole level lower. Moreover, there was a huge gap between the demon weapon and the dragon weapon. Under such circumstances, it would be strange if Mentor Dragon Emperor could withstand it. The void-ripping void magic blade burst out with countless black blade lights, directly enveloping the Dragon Emperor Mentor. The Dragon Emperor Mentor subconsciously used his defensive dragon martial technique, and also urged his best defensive dragon weapon, which was a human-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapon. Unfortunately, this human-ranked divine spiritual dragon weapon was much lower in grade than the void-ripping void magic blade. Instructor Dragon Emperor's own defensive dragon martial technique was also much weaker than the void-ripping void magic blade's top-notch origami demonic skill, void-ripping magic blade rain. The key was that the Dragon Emperor was not prepared. In his haste, he did not even use half of the power of his defensive dragon martial technique and dragon weapon. Naturally, he could not block the move that Kong Shinmu had prepared with all his might. If he had used his full strength, this Dragon Emperor mentor would not have been killed directly. But now, the space-rending magic sword rain was like the Grim Reaper descending from the sky. Countless black sword lights shattered the defense of the Dragon Emperor Mentor. Mentor Dragon Emperor immediately let out a furious roar. He wanted to rush out of the attack range of the space-ripping magic sword rain, but before he could completely leave the attack range of the Rage God's demonic skill, he was already completely slashed into pieces by the space-ripping magic sword rain. The entire body of the green divine dragon was directly slashed into a rain of blood, falling towards the scorched earth below. First Instructor Dragon Emperor, dead. Kong Shinmu then focused his attention on the remaining Dragon Emperor mentor. Instructor Dragon Emperor initially wanted to escape, but unfortunately, Kong Shinmu immediately threw out the heavenly demonic orb. The heavenly demonic orb immediately trapped him in a cage formed by countless demonic chi. Instructor Dragon Emperor could not break out no matter how hard he tried. You actually cultivated the inheritance of the Demon God clan. This is outrageous. Outrageous. Mentor Dragon Emperor's expression changed drastically as he watched his comrade being killed. He couldn't help but tremble in fear. His khaki divine dragon form was as thick as the earth, and there were layers and layers of earth elemental energy protecting him. He was determined to persevere in defense. In this way, how could Kong Shinmu kill him? He was still very calm. Although he panicked for a moment when he saw his comrade die, he quickly focused on using his defensive dragon martial skill in an attempt to block Kong Shinmu's next attack. However, when Kong Shinmu saw this scene, he didn't launch any more attacks. Instead, he spread his devouring power and sent it directly into the cage of the heavenly demonic orb. The cage of the heavenly demonic orb was very strong. Instructor Dragon Emperor was more skilled in defense, so he really couldn't break it. This was also what Kong Shinmu had discovered earlier. That was why he used the heavenly demonic orb to trap this person. It was to ensure that this person couldn't break out of the cage of the heavenly demonic orb. Next, Kong Shinmu's devouring power surged in. His devouring power began to devour that person's defensive dragon martial skill power. Although it was very slow, Kong Shinmu wasn't anxious. Instead, it was that person who was a little anxious. This was because there wasn't much power left in his body. Now that Kong Shinmu seemed to be absorbing his power, he couldn't defend at all. What should he do? Instructor Dragon Emperor immediately thought of an idea. He shouted loudly, "Kong Shinmu, you've miscalculated. Did you think that there were only 2 of us? Actually, there's more than just 2 of us. Instructor Cho Jingyun is also with us. Now, it's very likely that he has already captured your 3 little girlfriends. Aren't you going to check on your little girlfriends?" As soon as he said this, Kong Shinmu's face instantly darkened. Of course, he knew Cho Jingyun. That person was the same as Bien Feng. They were both Dragon Emperor's 7th level. Instructor Dragon Emperor. Could it be that that person had really come this time? If he had really come, then Jiang Liuxue and the others might really have met with some mishaps. Of course, it was useless for Kong Shinmu to worry now, but he still had to check on the 3 girls. The imprisoned Dragon Emperor had wanted to use these words to lure Kong Shinmu away, but he hadn't expected that Kong Shinmu would directly use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to come and go as he pleased. Kong Shinmu quickly passed through the void and arrived at the entrance of the supreme relic below. In the end, he discovered the entrance was empty. Jiang Liuxue and the other 2 girls had really disappeared. This situation caused Kong Shinmu's expression to change greatly. He immediately passed through the fiery spiritual energy ocean and returned to the imprisoned Dragon Emperor. Where is Cho Jingyun now? Kong Shinmu snorted coldly. Who knows? Maybe he has gone to the Supreme Relic. Instructor Dragon Emperor said sinisterly. How is it? Instructor Cho has indeed come, right? Have your 3 little girlfriends disappeared? If you release me immediately, only you will die. Your 3 little girlfriends will be fine. Otherwise, all of you will die. Kong Shinmu sneered. He simply could not accept the other party's threat. Moreover, it was very likely that Cho Jingyun had taken the 3 girls away, not the other party. Therefore, Kong Shinmu would not show any mercy to the other party. That would be meaningless. Devour! The devouring power completely erupted at this moment. Just now, his devouring power had surged into the cage of the heavenly demon orb and completely surrounded Instructor Dragon Emperor. At this moment, the devouring power was activated at the same time and directly began to devour the other party's defensive dragon martial art power. This devouring power was extremely tyrannical. After all, it was Kong Shinmu's innate talent. At this moment, the devouring power was like a locust passing through. Once the power was devoured, it was all stored in Kong Shinmu's devouring space and then transformed into his own devouring power. Then, the devouring power once again surged into the cage and joined the raging tide of devouring. If the other party had not been trapped in the cage of the heavenly demon orb, the speed of the devouring power's devouring power would not have been able to keep up with the speed of his escape. But now, Instructor Dragon Emperor had nowhere to run even if he wanted to. He was completely trapped. This devouring power is really terrifying. Even the demon god ancestor could not help but sigh. This kind of power was simply the bane of all power in the world. It devoured everything, destroyed everything, and then transformed it into its own power. It was too shocking. No wonder the chaotic sky-devouring dragon has the power to destroy this world. Chapter 46-48. The devouring power was a heaven-defying existence. At Kong Shinmu's current level, as long as the opponent did not kill him in one move, then Kong Shinmu would not lose. This was the same as before. Now that the Dragon Emperor mentor was defending with all his might, it was easy for Kong Shinmu to deal with him. The devouring power, directly devour. No matter how strong the opponent was, it was impossible for him to disperse all the devouring power. No matter how strong the opponent was, Kong Shinmu could devour it all. Just that the devouring speed was slightly slower than usual. However, sooner or later, the opponent's power would be devoured by Kong Shin-mu, along with the opponent's life. Space-tearing void magic blade, space-tearing magic blade rain. Kong Shin-mu was burning with anxiety. He wanted to quickly kill the guy in front of him and find the three girls, so he used the space-tearing void magic blade, erupting with the strongest power. The demon god ancestor almost wanted to vomit blood. "I don't have much bloodline power, don't keep using it, kid." But in this urgent situation, Kong Shin-mu could not be bothered to think too much. He would just kill the opponent directly. With the eruption of the space-tearing magic blade rain, the guy's dragon body that was imprisoned in the heavenly demon bead faced the most terrifying attack. Countless black blade lights came from all directions, penetrating the devouring power that enveloped his body, and instantly piercing the opponent's dragon body's vital points. Originally, it would have taken at least 10 minutes to kill him with the devouring power alone. But now, this guy's vital points were directly torn apart by the space-tearing magic blade rain. This guy's defense was originally impregnable, and even the space-tearing magic blade rain could not break through it. However, Kong Shin-mu first used the devouring power to devour the dragon defense, riddling it with holes. When the space-tearing magic blade rain attacked, he naturally could not resist it. He died instantly. The Dragon Emperor mentor died with grievances. He never thought that he would die in the hands of a student, and a third-level Dragon Emperor student at that. He could not understand it. Why could Kong Shin-mu cultivate 3 inheritances, each more powerful than the last? This was simply subverting his worldview and outlook on life. This fellow's worldview was overturned, and then he died tragically. His entire divine dragon body was riddled with holes, and in the end, Jiang Shenwu's devouring power completely devoured his flesh, blood, and life essence, leaving only a divine dragon skeleton behind. After all, he was an expert at the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor realm. His life essence was already transforming into that of a divine dragon. Even if he removed his divine dragon form, the divine dragon blood essence after his death would leave behind a divine dragon corpse instead of a human body. The dragon skeleton fell into the scorched sinkhole, and it would soon be corroded by the poisonous fire spirit energy in the sinkhole. Then, it would completely disappear into ashes. Kong Shin-mu did not care about the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors' corpses, because it was not convenient for Kong Shin-mu to take their things. After all, they belonged to the Dragon Emperor mentor. If he took them, it would arouse suspicion. Although they came to kill him, he did not want this matter to spread. Killing the Dragon Emperor mentor, although it was self-defense, was still an unforgivable sin for many people. Of course, if one were to say that he was afraid, Kong Shin-mu was not afraid. He just did not want to get into more trouble. After all, he was going to the Dragon God's world soon. And the most important point was that Kong Shin-mu really looked down on the 2 Dragon Emperor mentors' things. If they had divine dragon weapons, perhaps Kong Shin-mu would consider it. But now, it was better to forget about these broken things. There was no need to take the risk. Instead of fighting for these things, it was better to hurry and find the 3 women. Kong Shin-mu quickly arrived at the entrance of the cave where the 3 women had disappeared. Fortunately, when he separated from the 3 women, he had used a dragon martial technique on them, the mysterious dragon-seeking shadow. This dragon martial technique was a very low-level dragon martial technique that he had cultivated before. But now, it was still useful to track the 3 women's auras. Kong Shin-mu sensed for a while and found that the 3 women were now deep inside the supreme relic. This made him a little puzzled. What had they encountered? If they had really been captured by Cho Jingyun, why did she go to the depths of the supreme relic? But if Cho Jingyun hadn't captured them, why didn't they wait for Kong Shin-mu here? Why did they go to the depths of the supreme relic? That's right, there's a possibility. Could it be that they saw Cho Jingyun chasing after them and had nowhere else to go, so they could only go to the depths of the supreme relic? I wonder what the situation is like now. No matter what, Kong Shin-mu could only go to the depths of the supreme relic. He transformed into a black dragon and directly flew towards the depths of the cave at an extremely fast speed. The passageways in the supreme relic were intricate and complicated. He had no way to use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash. Once he used it, he probably wouldn't know where he would appear. No one knew what the situation inside the supreme relic was like. Therefore, the demon god ancestor also warned him that it was best to move forward step by step. If he used the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to travel through space, it would be troublesome if he directly passed through a trap. One had to know that some traps had sealed space, so one could only enter but not exit. If Kong Shinmu entered, he wouldn't be able to come out, so he could only slowly fly inside. Kong Shinmu followed the three women's auras and quickly flew towards the depths of the supreme relic. The deeper he went, the more he felt a vast and tyrannical aura coming from the deepest part of the supreme ruins. The power that constantly rippled out was like the ripples of the sea, blowing on his body, causing his pores to become a little soft. This power was too strong. Was this the power of a supreme relic? It was shocking. Kong Shinmu also felt a brand new power trace along the way. The power trace was a little familiar, and after careful thought, he realized that it really came from Cho Jingyun's power trace. Indeed, this fellow had also chased after him. Is it because I'm worried about the two Dragon Emperor mentors chasing after me? So I came personally. Kong Shinmu looked a little nervous. After all, Cho Jingyun, a 7th-level mentor of the Dragon Emperor, was chasing after Zhang Liuxue and the other two. However, Kong Shinmu could sense that the trio had yet to be caught by her. He also did not know what method she had used to prevent Cho Jingyun from catching up. It always seemed like there was a little distance between them. Kong Shinmu quickly caught up. There weren't many forks in the Supreme Relic. In fact, there was only one path. This was because this was the closest path that the explorers had dug up, and it led directly to the burial site of the Supreme Relic. Kong Shinmu wanted the corpse of the Supreme Relic, and then devoured it to see what he could get, but he was more concerned about the lives of Zhang Liuxue and the other two women. They absolutely could not die. Otherwise, Kong Shinmu would feel guilty, because he was the one who had brought them out. If anything happened to them, Kong Shinmu would have to take full responsibility. Chapter 46-49. He was familiar because he had seen Cho Jingyun before and could feel his aura. He was unfamiliar because Kong Shinmu had only seen Cho Jingyun in human form, but he had never seen Cho Jingyun in his dragon form. Therefore, Kong Shinmu could only feel that his aura was familiar, but he had never seen Cho Jingyun in his dragon form. It was a divine dragon with flames burning all over its body. It was the grade of the Dragon Emperor's 7th-level inheritance blood essence, which made Cho Jingyun's aura majestic. It was comparable to Chu Yueqiang's battle strength in the past. At that time, Chu Yueqiang fought against the Dragon Emperor Yen alone. She suppressed several Dragon Emperors nearby with one move, and they were no match for her at all. Now Cho Jingyun was the same. He was not as useless as the two Dragon Emperor mentors before, but a Dragon Emperor mentor who was respected even in Donghuang Yonggu College. His combat power was in the middle of the Dragon Emperor mentors, and he also had many talented Dragon Warrior students. Of course, those Dragon Warrior students were still too weak compared to Kong Shinmu. Even if some students had reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor and were now going to the Dragon God world for training, they were no match for Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu could even kill the Dragon Emperor mentors at the 6th level of the Dragon Emperor. How could those new Dragon Emperor mentors at the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor be a match for Kong Shinmu? However, if Kong Shinmu wanted to deal with Cho Jingyun head-on, he still couldn't do it. Cho Jingyun's strength was too strong, and he had a lot of good things in his hands. He must have even cultivated the powerful Holy Spirit Dragon martial arts technique. Not everyone was like the two Dragon Emperor mentors just now, who did not dare to fight on the battlefield. Cho Jingyun dared to fight, so naturally he would become stronger. This was seizing the opportunity. Some people didn't dare to go to the battlefield and only dared to stay in the rear. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to improve. Even a genius student like Kong Shinmu could kill them now. If they had known that this day would come, the two Dragon Emperor mentors would probably regret it, right? Unfortunately, it was too late to regret now. They had already become skeletons of divine dragons in the scorched earth pit. No one would know that they had died here, and no one would be able to collect their corpses. Now, Kong Shinmu met Cho Jingyun. Cho Jingyun clearly sensed Kong Shinmu's aura as well. She turned her head in the spacious underground passageway. The eyes of the divine dragon burning in flames were like the sun as she looked at Kong Shinmu. At this moment, Kong Shinmu felt like he was being watched. However, he also obtained a piece of good news. He discovered that Cho Jingyun hadn't caught up to Zhang Liuxue and the other two women. Their auras were still in the deeper regions, and Cho Jingyun was chasing after them. How could the three women run so fast? Kong Shinmu didn't know, but it was fine as long as they hadn't fallen into Cho Jingyun's hands. Now that Cho Jingyun had noticed Kong Shinmu, he decisively turned around to deal with Kong Shinmu and attacked Kong Shinmu. He wanted to get rid of Jiang Shenwu, then head into the depths of the Supreme Ruins and bring Jiang Liuxue and the other two out. Seeing this, Kong Shinmu immediately made up his mind to retreat. His speed was extremely fast, and Cho Jingyun simply couldn't catch up to him. Or rather, once he was about to catch up, he would directly use the Sunset Blade Flowing Flash to travel a short distance through space. He had long since figured out the path he had come from, so when he used the Sunset Blade Flowing Flash to travel through space, he would have a very precise location and wouldn't end up in a dangerous place. In this kind of situation, as soon as Cho Jingyun caught up, he would travel through space and wouldn't fall into his opponent's hands. After this happened several times, Cho Jingyun suddenly became angry and impatient. He turned around and quickly flew deeper into the passage. It was very difficult for him to catch Kong Shinmu, but he didn't care. As long as he caught Jiang Liuxue and the other two women, Kong Shinmu would definitely obediently allow himself to be captured. So he directly flew deeper into the passage. Kong Shinmu wasn't to be outdone, so he directly followed behind him. As soon as his opponent showed any signs of turning around, Kong Shinmu would use the Sunset Blade Flowing Flash to retreat, making it impossible for Cho Jingyun to catch up to him. This made Cho Jingyun want to vomit blood. Too shameless. Kong Shinmu was too shameless. But as long as he caught Jiang Liuxue and the other two women, he would like to see if Kong Shinmu was still as slippery as before. The two of them followed the passage of the Supreme Ruins and quickly flew deeper underground. Along the way, they could feel that the Supreme Ruins and the aura of a Supreme Expert were getting closer and closer, becoming thicker and thicker, as if it wasn't far in front of them. Finally, about an hour after Kong Shinmu had flown into the entrance of the Supreme Ruins, he followed closely behind Cho Jingyun and rushed out of the passage, arriving at an extremely vast underground space. This underground space was like the vault of heaven, vast and empty. The entire area was spherical, with a radius of dozens of miles. And in the center of this vast space was another solid spherical object, floating in midair. The endless aura of a Supreme Expert emanated from this earthen yellow sphere, and even the surface of the sphere was burning with flames. In the center of the empty spherical space was an earthen yellow sphere. This was where the remains of the Supreme Expert were buried. Even Kong Shinmu could clearly feel the terrifying power emanating from the central sphere. After arriving here, they were definitely at the end of the Supreme Ruins. The surrounding empty space originally didn't exist, but it had been excavated by the dragon martialists who had come to explore the ruins. Originally, they had planned to dig out the remains of the Supreme Expert, but they hadn't expected that the remains would be surrounded by fire poison. Moreover, this fire poison was so powerful that it was more than 10 times stronger than the fire poison spiritual energy outside. Even the Super Dragon God couldn't break through the fire poison defense and successfully take away the remains of the Supreme Expert. Kong Shinmu followed Cho Jingyun's Inferno Divine Dragon into this empty space. At first, he was shocked. The surrounding air was filled with the fire poison spiritual energy, but the concentration wasn't high. And when Cho Jingyun rushed here, he was also a little shocked. Obviously, it was also his first time here. But he immediately seized the opportunity to turn around and attack Kong Shinmu. A ferocious, fiery red flame instantly spread towards Jiang Shenwu like a burning cloud. Unfortunately, when Kong Shinmu sensed his attack, he immediately reacted and urged the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to shuttle in other directions in this empty space, easily dodging Cho Jingyun's attack. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.